What you said is 100. Now, the thing about what you said, ignore it.
Rubber dub and
bubble bub bub. Ignore it because
I don't mean it like that.
What's going on YouTube in the building?
I know, brother. Hey, look, what you said though is 100, man. Because the thing is, we can't basically deny the fact that we are the targets no matter what. Even though we know from what we see who the people are that's committing a lot of these crimes, these mass shootings. Okay, yeah, you might have what, y'all? You might have what, 1% black that might commit a mass shooting. But who's the majority of your folks that's committing those shootings? They usually gonna be lighter skin. But like you said, Muppet, it's true. Even though we're not the ones that's committing those mass shootings, they still will try to make us the face of it. It's crazy. It's the craziest thing ever. And then, like the other issues, like the issue with fentanyl, that's a big issue with the drugs in the community, right? See, I don't know any black American that fools with the fentanyl, but guess what? They still try to make us the face of that. How you gonna make us the face of that? But they will.
They make us the face of that because a lot of our people are dying because they've got a hold of the fentanyl when they go to buy their drugs. So
two brothers in Maryland just got locked up for that.
Yeah, I've been seeing here in my city, there's been a lot of drug busts lately, and if you go on the news sites, you'll see more cases of those who've gotten caught with fentanyl, and you'll see more white faces. But a lot of times what they present in the news will be, a couple of black drug dealers who's gotten, caught with a small portion of fentanyl, but that's not really who's being, who's dealing with the fentanyl. And then where are we? And then they're not really kind of putting out where we're getting the fentanyl from. It's not like we have fentanyl farms or, anything like that. I don't know where fentanyl comes from, but I'm just saying fentanyl farms or wherever it comes from. So, they're going after the low-hanging fruit.
The Chinese are the biggest producers.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. It's coming from China. And those Chinese people that are coming in through the southern border, that are going to Ecuador and making their way all the way up to America, they bringing it. And I try to explain that to people. Again, the Chinese are playing the long game against America. They sending drugs over here to kill people first because they know that a war with us is inevitable. So they trying to thin out our numbers as much as they can through alternative means.
Crazy as hell.
And COVID, I believe, was a litmus test to what may come from them, maybe the mother lode. They identified all of our weaknesses, and our greatest weakness is that most of our manufacturing, almost all of it, is in that country. And even things as important as our PPEs are manufactured there. When we were running out of those here in this country, they refused to give it to us. So when we spend our money on items in this country that are made in China, we are supporting their communism. We are also supporting their recolonization of Africa. We are also supporting the litmus tests that they have been doing around the world, but mainly to America, mainly with SARS, mainly with the bird flu, mainly with COVID, and we should expect another one. See, Trump was investigating exactly where. He already had said it came from China and from Wuhan, but he actually initiated an official report on it, and then when he lost, of course Biden came in and you never heard a damn thing from it again. But it came from China. It came I personally, you can't convince me that this was not done intentionally. It was done intentionally. That whole white balloon thing in the sky, that spy thing. All of this is, like this gentleman said, is for the long game. And that's what they're doing. And as we are, doping ourselves, TikTok is another thing. Remember, Trump did not want TikTok in the United States. Remember that? He didn't.
That's another TikTok is ran by the Chinese. You can't say nothing about China that's negative on TikTok. They will shadow ban.
So with that being said, we support all our manufacturing is in that country. We support their communism. It's amazing how America complains about their crimes against humanity and all this other bullshit. It's like, but America is supporting it. We support it. We don't have manufacturing in this country, and so we support it. And the very white people that these poor ass whites continue to attach themselves to, they're the ones that have sold us out. That is what happened in the 70s into the 80s. All those manufacturing companies
1,000.
went abroad.
Oh yeah, we hit 1,000. Let me put that in there.
To China, and it's been game over ever since. And so, brace yourself for another major pandemic from this country. And it's always China or Africa. If it's not Africa giving us something, it's China. It's those two. If we didn't have those two, we would not have all these problems. But, and then there's fracking. I'm going to tell you something else. Fracking is very dangerous for many reasons. But another one that people don't seem to realize is that archaeology, there's a thing called archaeology. And a lot of diseases that we are not familiar with have been buried thousands of years ago.
Yeah, that's true.
But fracking is actually unearthing a lot of this. And we are not prepared for this because we don't know what it is.
Interesting.
And this is real talk. And this is not some crazy, crazy nonsense I'm talking about. When you dig deep into the ground, so deep to the crater, you potentially unearth past diseases that might have wiped out an entire generation. And that is real. It's happening now.
Very real.
So
I think that was one of the concerns that they had about global warming and respect to like Antarctica and places
melting
like
ice.
that. Starting to melt up, because they're also discovering that there's a lot of diseases where they go back inside of those areas and they've been running tests and realizing that there are some diseases that they haven't seen in centuries that it's still somewhat active up under that water. So when you say that that's 100%. It doesn't sound like any crazy people talk. That's 100. Another thing that when you were talking about the pandemic, what it unearthed, besides, I think the manufacturing thing was the absolute biggest when we realized that all of our stuff is coming from China. But another thing that China realized is that white people lost their shit. They lost their collective minds.
Well, that's what I said. It was a litmus test. They needed to see where our weaknesses is. It's almost like when you were a kid and you go, I remember in school, they would have these programs where, for dental, like to promote dental hygiene as a kid, they would give you this blue pill and you put it in your mouth and it will identify where the cavities could be and all that stuff like that. This is what China has done to America. The mental infraction was number one. Even Americans could not believe how crazy Americans are. The mental infraction was number one. Number two, it revealed that we don't manufacture anything. Down to the vitamins that we take is manufactured in China, which is scary. We don't have any emergency surplus in this country at all. Because if we did, we wouldn't have had the problems that we had. Right. So we are at the whims of these people. And they showed us. They didn't give a fuck about us because they told us, no, we're not going to give you anything. And so when we are always asked around the world when there's a natural disaster to come to the aid of these people, we come and we pull up and we give them money and everything. Okay? We got nothing from mainly that country. So we are in trouble. We are in trouble because we've been exposed. And we are not ready for prime time. We're not ready. We're not ready. And then the mental infraction is the greatest thing. Because when you are in a type of emergency, you have to have a calm. You have to have a discipline. America doesn't have it. we're a mess.
Look, I want to say this real quick, sister. So I'm a trucker, right? Shout out to my fellow truckers and my people in the logistics industry in the room.
Yeah,
but
just
like
in time.
freight is down, like crazy down. Freight is down. The prices that we making, you know, the pay per mile that we're getting out here is down because we're not getting all those items. We're not getting all that shipping from China. And we get a lot of stuff from China that keep us on the road and keep us having good loads and making money and stuff. But ever since, you know, China has been doing their little stuff with Taiwan and basically issued their statement to America saying stay out of it, freight has been down. America been trying to talk to China. China has given America radio silence. They're not answering phone calls, emails, text messages, smoke signals, SOS with the flash, but they ain't answering nothing. So that's that, to speak on that part. And then the other part about these ancient bacteria and diseases, right? So speaking on the global warming piece, do you know that America has filed for patent on the bacteria that have been thawed out in Antarctica?
Interesting.
Didn't know that. No, I didn't know that. I remember years ago when in my past
season, hey Black, can you put me down? And Professor, he's gonna take my place. Hey, I appreciate.
Oh shit. Oh my bad.
Now,
bro.
I remember years ago when in my past life when I had a real job, I was caught in Asia when that whole SARS thing happened, and I couldn't come back to this country without being quarantined at the time.
Come on, bro.
And I remember, I went from Korea, I think, and I landed in Taipei. And when I landed in Taipei, you would have thought that I brought you would have thought I was the one that brought SARS to the country. The level of just quarantine and just dissecting where I was and why everything was amazing. Amazing. And I remember during COVID, we still allowed people from Asia to come to this country, with the bullshit 24-hour quarantine.
Wow.
And, I remember, having to go through, because I had to laugh to myself, having to go through this machine where really it was sort of like, I forgot that movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger, but it was a machine that I actually saw my entire skeleton.
Oh, wow.
It was amazing.
Total recall.
And,
Total
the
recall.
level of quarantine, level of questioning that I had, as if I am an American that brought this to their country purposely. It was amazing to me. And when I saw how America treated, still, when we didn't want them coming to this country flying in, and they still did. It's just unbelievable that this country called America, we are too loose, and we're just too loose. We're too loose, and we just need to. I think we really need to bring our kids and let them do 2 years of military, because let me tell you something. The knowledge of military skills is going to be necessary, because I do believe that the world is going to come after America. When I look at Egypt, I never knew that America was giving Egypt a $1 billion welfare check every single year, only to find out when that kid uploaded all that secret, top secret paperwork on Reddit, that there is proof that Egypt was getting ready to sell arms to Russia against the United States. And that the prime minister or whatever, the president of Egypt, quoted, said, please don't let the West know we're doing this. So we're giving money to people who is planning our demise. But yet they don't have money for schools. They don't have money for reparations. They don't have money to improve it. They're just beginning to improve for infrastructure. Fuck these countries.
Look, this is the thing, sis. So I talked about BRICS earlier, right? This new reserve currency that's going to represent I think it's like 55% of the world's population, but like 40% of the world's economy, right? Yeah, Egypt is another country that's waiting, that already has filed paperwork to sign on the BRICS. So yes, 55% of the world is turning against America. And the battle lines are being drawn on quote unquote morality and ethics and righteousness. And to keep it from getting too blatant, it's basically pro-rainbow countries versus anti-rainbow countries at this point. That's going to be the Axis versus the Allies in World War III, drawn on who's rainbow affirming and who's sending you to jail
let me throw this
you
into
for
the
being
mix.
in the rainbow coalition.
Now, I'm glad you mentioned BRICS because I heard you there earlier, and I was like, I'm glad you mentioned it because I spoke about Egypt. Egypt has applied to be a part of BRICS, but what BRICS have allowed them to do is join BRICS. I don't know if you know this, but BRICS could develop a thing called the New Development Bank. New Development Bank. So Egypt, although they have applied to be a member of BRICS, not yet. But what they allowed them to do was join this bank.
Oh, we're marching towards war.
Why is this important?
We're marching towards war. We're marching towards war.
Countries like Egypt,
we're marching towards war.
It's a lot for them.
Fuck, man.
And and I don't know all things about their economy, but it's a lot of pressure to find U.S. dollars to meet the country's imports, right? So by joining this bank, this New Development Bank under BRICS, they can use their own national currency in trade exchange, which is a whole game changer. So when you have countries like that who don't have to have U.S. dollars, right, to meet their country's import demands and can use their own dollars, you don't need America anymore. And so you've got, let me tell you who else has expressed interest in applying for BRICS. This is interesting. Is Mexico. Let me tell you something. If Mexico joins BRICS, and that's south of America,
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see where Canada stays.
They're in cahoots.
After a while, I don't know.
I'm gonna tell you what's gonna happen if Mexico does it. Once Mexico joins BRICS, you know what's coming next. China and Russia going to try to establish some military bases in Mexico. And then is America going to allow that? We've seen that with the Cuban Missile Crisis, right? So people keep talking about build a wall, build a wall. It's going to be a wall, all right. A wall of military across the whole southern border of tanks and troops.
So much money. Yeah. Millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars have been sent to Africa. Various countries around Africa, in the continent of Africa, to help them. We are the world. We have American missionaries that have over the years gone there and spent millions of donated dollars building a sewer line for them, building wells for them, shoes, schools. The amount of medicine through pharmaceutical philanthropic endeavors have been sent to Africa over the years. They would not have survived if it wasn't for America. And yet several of their countries in that continent has joined BRICS. These people are no good. These people are no good. They too want to see the demise of America. You see it in various microcosms in different cities around the United States, just how Africans treat Black American people. They tell you, they tell you in the way they talk to you, how they address you, how they think of you, how they treat you. You listen, they would be, in my opinion, the correction officers that are looking at us and treating us badly in jail for the white people. They're the ones that's going to carry out the brutality against Black American people if the rest of the world can take America over. Believe me when I tell you, I am not crazy. I believe me, I believe it. I believe it. I believe it. And while we're here in America, like that goddamn woman that I cannot stand, that Corinne Jean-Pierre, whatever, last week, and I uploaded it on my Twitter thing, talking about Lesbian Awareness Week because she's a lesbian her damn self. Gives a fuck. Okay? When we're here talking about all this trans shit and all this gay shit, and everybody is whacking their brains out on fucking fentanyl, China is laughing at us, and the rest of those BRICS countries are laughing at us, and all the other countries that want to join BRICS and bring America down is laughing at us. We're the laughing stock of the world.
But this is why, sis, and that's why I say that the battle lines have already been drawn, and that's the line in the sand. See, there used to be a time when America was not the face of the Rainbow Coalition. You know, when you thought about all that, you thought about a European country, Britain, Germany, France, you know, stuff like that. But now America is seen as the poster child and the main promoter of the rainbow lifestyle, and they see America as trying to, quote unquote, turn the world gay. That's why when Trump came out and said that he was taking all that stuff out of schools if he get elected, and, you know, different things was going to happen because he wasn't going to let them corrupt our kids and this and this and that. Well, before he said it, like a month before he said it, Putin had said it. Putin said the same thing. He was like, no, we're not allowing all this and that. It's immoral, it's doing this, it destroys the fiber or the structure of the family unit and all this and that. And those African countries agree with all of that. China agrees with that. China passed the law. If you are a whatever it says on your ID, if you are a man, male, whatever, you can't show up on Chinese television looking like a woman. You're going to jail. And the show that had you on their program is either going to be taken over by the government or it's going to be shut down. So yeah, that's what it is. I'm not saying they want to see America fall, but it ain't because of us on the surface. But then it kind of is, because this is another one of those things where they have made us the face of the Rainbow Coalition. They have made black people, more specifically black women, the face of the Rainbow Coalition. And according to the stats, of course, white men are the, they the number one demographic of the Rainbow Coalition. But then second to them, percentage wise, is black women. So yeah, they blame the white man and the black woman for the world, getting on the Skittles brigade, and they want to see America fall because of that. And
yeah, we're not getting ready to keep putting everything on the black woman. We got a new speaker on the stage, the GO team.
The GO
Would
team.
You like to add to the conversation, brother?
GO team. What's going on, bro? What's up, GO team? GO team.
Hello, everybody. I was just listening. I haven't been here in a while, but I do want to add a few things, touch on what was said as far as China and the fentanyl and things. I was looking at reports saying they buying up the farms too. And there's a lot of other things going on with them.
In America,
purchasing these farms. A lot of farmers is trying to stop that. But
states
on the ground, not in Russia and other places, I'm saying the white supremacists already been they already told us that they are the number one threat to national security of America, and it has been playing out. We've been attacked by pickup trucks, we've been attacked by chocos, we've been attacked by, mass shooters or at a high level into the schools. There's all kinds of things and stuff like that. But for us, I think we need to be looking at our most vulnerable, which is, what they consider the derelicts of our community, the drug addicts, the homeless, and a lot of those people that can't fight for themselves because of, the young folk, they strapped up, so they're not really going to be running around at them because they playing on each other. So, when I looked at them, no one is coming to save this thing. We knew this already. We knew this for at least 60 years, So I'm just soaking it up, learning new things, especially with the Egypt thing and the BRICS and stuff like that. So I'm just observing. So I land there.
What do you think we should do to combat some of the things that you just said? Because those were some pretty good points.
When I look at this situation on this L train, looking at the timing and the thing, it's like giving me George Floyd fury, and I'm not going at the time frame, the election and everything, you know, they like to pull out heartstrings with the vote time. But I looked at the shots, the still shots, the 3 white men in the book bags and the military staff and the things like that, and I'm like seeing, like, you know, it's the same situation. They just wasn't cops. They was Marines. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, they choked that man out and they killed him. And you see other people that holding his wrist. I mean, it's like, you know, it looked like they holding his wrist and then it looked like they restraining him. Like, you know, words can't. It's not, man, you know, I'm looking at it and he looking at the camera and he looking at it like the guy that was on George Floyd and that was looking right at it. It's like, you know, they've been poking at us a whole lot. But, you know, it's easy to get us when we isolate. We isolated, you know. It's like I don't care about each other no more. So, you know, I mean, I'm just, you know, I'm still just trying to get my thoughts together because I don't want to really rant. But we gotta start paying attention to what's going on with us right now, because, like you said, the world is after America, and on our side since January 6th. Those boys pleaded guilty to sedition. They didn't say not guilty and got found. They was like, guilty, yeah, we was guilty and we're not going to stop. And I feel like it's been an onslaught since that day. So, you know, we need to be paying attention. We know our enemy. We know what they're doing. And, you know, we need to, like, get up, take care of our most vulnerable, like, you know, like, you know, the Panthers there, and I don't want to go retro because we can't be retro, but it's the same thinking when you say nobody else is coming for us but us. So, you know, that's what I'm stopping there.
Somebody wants to cut Social Security and Medicare. Question real quick for the room. So, if the American dollar is going to fall and be obsolete, do y'all still want cash as a part of y'all reparations package?
No. Because it wouldn't be any good. You might as well just crash that. It's due. It's due. If the dollar crashes, it means nothing to us. What we're going to go further in is something else, which is land and gold. That's it.
Can I just say this discussion is going in a whole other direction. Like I had said previously that I followed geopolitics, and I didn't chime in when there was a discussion about BRICS. Now, I'll go to that though. BRICS, it's a political alliance. They haven't created. One person mentioned how they created a development bank. That was done quite a few years ago, but they don't have one uniform currency. They still are separate countries that adhere to the IMF and World Bank international rules that's governed by the IMF and World Bank. And even though a lot of countries are pulling away from the U.S., for instance, Russia doesn't even have any U.S. Dollars as foreign reserves. Every other country does, even though they're kind of winding down. But most of the foreign reserves held by other countries are still U.S. dollars. It might have been at one point, many years ago, it was over 80 or 90%. Now the level is still probably over 65%. So even though the U.S. is slowly losing power and losing grip, because if any countries ever did transactions with each other, they were still required to use their U.S. reserves to actually deal with each other, which doesn't make sense, but that was the way this system has been set up. The U.S. still has a high level of influence over other countries because most other countries still have high levels of U.S. reserves. Over time, that'll wind down. So whatever changes are going to happen, it's not going to be immediate. You know, things tend to happen gradually, then it all happens at once, like the Soviet Union collapsing. We're not at that point, and we're all fallible. I can't say if it'll happen next year or 5 years from now. But like right now, it's not going to happen tomorrow. It's not likely to happen even next year. These things develop slowly. There there was one other point I wanted to make. I just have to think what that was. I can come back to that. I apologize. I lost my train of thought.
Well, thank you, Muffet, for your perspective on that.
Yeah, let me jump back to the conversation about this global conflict, war, et cetera, et cetera. So Biden, oh man, so let me go back. So Trump, this is all about Taiwan because this is where everything is moving towards, this impending conflict between China and Taiwan. So during Trump's administration, he had authorized $13 billion and even $14 billion worth of money to go to Taiwan for defense, for weapons, whatever. So since Biden has been in office, this was in 2021, he proposed $750 million in arms sales to Taiwan. Last December, a few months back, they actually approved $180 million in arms sales. And then during that process, they authorized up to $1 billion, a little over $1 billion in arms sales to Taiwan as well. And so this is just within the past couple of days, they have authorized $500 million or $500 million worth of arms to Taiwan. So what you see is that they are ramping up the ability for Taiwan to defend itself from China. Same way they ultimately ramped up Ukraine's ability to defend itself from Russia. They said that Biden used this some emergency authorization. He used it 35 times for Ukraine. These numbers are got to be astronomical at this point, how much money that we're giving to these little countries to fight these wars against Russia and China at some future date. We're going to get sucked into this stuff if things don't go the way that they are wanting them to go, and or they may manipulate it so that we do actually indeed go to war. It just feels like everything that's going on domestically, it feels like war is something that is impending. And this is like where everybody seems like, I think a lot of people feel there's just this big event that's going to happen. There's this big thing that's coming on the horizon. And it could be this global conflict. There's no way the United States can let Mexico or any other country that's that close to us have military bases. That's just out of the question. So I think the United States would invade Mexico before they let them put Russian or China artillery on our border like that. So that's just, I just wanted to add that into the conversation.
So this is my question to that, brother. What does that look like? If because I didn't think about that. You just hit me to something. And you're right, that is a possibility. So what does that look like? How does the world react to that? The way I see it is, again, this war that's coming, it's an inevitability. It's not if, it's when. Damn. China is waiting on Russia to wrap up its conflict with Ukraine, but it's not up for debate if China is going to go and retake Taiwan. Damn. Taiwan cannot win that fight. We give them as much guns and missiles and all that stuff as we want. They don't have enough people. Their numbers just ain't big enough. So what does that mean? America has to either get in, or America has to default on its quote unquote agreement for protection with Taiwan. Wow. But when to speak about Mexico, if Russia or China sets up a base or tries to set up a base in Mexico, and the United States invades Mexico, you still got a world war that's about to pop off. It's like, that's what I say. Either way it goes, to me, it's coming. And there's nothing that's going to stop it except for America to sit back and do nothing. And I think we all know that America ain't going to do that.
Can I point out one thing? We're discussing Mexico right now, but I'm thinking about a book written by a former, what was his position? Zbigniew Brzezinski. He was a former not Secretary of State. I think he was he held the position he held the position that Condoleezza Rice held. It was Security Advisor, National Security Advisor. That's correct. And in his book, The Grand Chessboard, he wrote how, looking forward into the future, one of not just America, but the Western system, both European states and America, the biggest threat was China and Russia and all of the states in Asia and Central Asia coming together and using that landmass for trade, and also extending it towards Eastern Europe up into Germany. And we just kind of have to realize, like, what the Iraq War effectively did, even though it began 20 years ago, was not give the U.S. the ability to take Iraqi oil. What the Iraq War did was destroy Iraqi infrastructure so that the Iraqis and the Iranians after that, because they've been sanctioning Iran, haven't been able to effectively have commerce with China. What this Ukrainian war did, whether they set up the pieces to get Russia to enter Ukraine, because it actually has worked that way, where they've slowly expanded NATO right up to Russia's doorstep, to the point where Russia doesn't have any choice, and they had to attack Ukraine because they need a buffer between NATO and themselves, so they can't be attacked, right away. What that has done was force Germany and prevented Germany from economic interaction with Russia. The U.S. used that as an excuse, even though they won't admit it, to blow up the Nord Stream pipeline. So now all effective economic cooperation between Russia and Germany has ceased. And now Germany, which was an economic powerhouse, a technical powerhouse, which the U.S. feared them having better diplomatic relations with Russia and China, now they're forced to buy U.S. Resources, gas and oil. So that has been a major strategic win for the U.S. It's almost like they have people focusing on Ukraine, but they set up a circumstance where they're winning their objectives. It's just, if you don't know where to look, you don't understand what their objectives are. So
I'll just put this all on.
No one can say what the future would bring, but if there was a conflict with China at some point, and I really hope the conflict with Russia doesn't escalate, because then all bets are off, because Russia right now has better nuclear technology than the U.S., and they have hypersonic missiles that can reach us, and there's no defense to it. But if there was a minor conflict, yes, if there was a minor conflict, not a minor, but a conflict with China, I wouldn't say that the U.S. would use that as an opportunity to have an all-out conflict with China. I would think they would use that as an excuse to start to cut off China's trade routes around Africa into Europe and other places.
That's still war.
And they ultimately might give Taiwan up, but they'll use that as an excuse to cut off China's ability to develop economically and trade with other countries. Because right now, the U.S., if you look at it, still has 1,000 military bases around the world, and they have China surrounded. They don't have Russia surrounded because that's a large landmass. But in the Pacific and Indian Oceans, they have Asia surrounded.
Interesting.
So I would, we're all speculating, but I would look there. That might be their ultimate objective, to weaken China economically, not try to beat them as far as, militarily.
Interesting.
But if you notice, China is starting to fund Russia with a lot of weapons as well. And there was an article the other day that was saying how Russia was sending uranium or whatever to these other nations. And so they're also building up, ramping up their ability for nuclear power in different areas where there wasn't previous nuclear power available, or as much, to really make a good, to really stump good. But if they continue on the pattern in which they are now, then eventually certain other countries that didn't have those abilities before will now have those abilities. So I don't know.
We're talking about nuclear power, nuclear technology.
Yeah.
This what I'm gonna say, Brother Muffet and Sister Trouble. Like, hey, the war is coming. It's inevitable, because even what you're talking about, China not rocking with none of it. They're not going for it. America, they told America stay out of it. Russia told China, Putin told President Jinping or whatever his name is, he said, when you go after Taiwan, if America jump in, we jumping in. Same thing they told him about. They told Russia about America jumping in to defend Ukraine, not just sending them supplies and stuff and weapons, but actually getting militarily involved with our U.S. armed forces. So, I mean, it's come. That's the ultimatum that China has put to America. You're going to let us do what we do, or we busting guns. So that's what I'm saying. It's coming.
Yeah, I just want to say we shouldn't let that, no matter what happens, it's kind of like religion, how people use religion to say this is going to happen, so we should wait, or we shouldn't do anything because it'll all be taken care of by God, or there's nothing we can do because fate has already been decided, or God decides it. If you look around you, no matter what state you travel to, building is going on, commerce is going on, the economy continues to grow and expand. I had expected, because of inflation, that the stock market would be much lower than it has. And I started prepping for that months ago, with, I'm not going to get into that, but if you notice, the NASDAQ, the S&P, none of that has actually dropped too much. And those are usually indicators of where the people that know what's going to happen, those are indicators of the economy looking forward. So these people that run things, and we're all fallible, anything can happen and catch us off guard. But everyone else, the rich people, are moving ahead with their lives. So we want to make sure that we're prepared for what happens in the future, but we also got to keep an eye towards building. Because that's what...
I think there's somebody with a hand up out there that's been waiting for a while. Is that J1 Luxury?
Yeah, let Muffet finish making his point, and then we'll go to the next speaker.
All right. A quick point as far as nuclear proliferation. There's the non-proliferation treaty that was done after the U.S. dropped a bomb on Japan. Every country actually has a right to nuclear technology. And the U.S. has usually violated other countries' rights by denying them nuclear technology, like it did Iran. But Russia, every other country is a signatory to that treaty, the non-proliferation treaty. And part of that, the agreement is that the countries that have nuclear technology is supposed to give the countries that don't have it that technology and allow them the ability to develop nuclear power. That's it. I'll stop there.
Interesting.
Thanks, Muppet. Secret Sister.
Ooh.
Hello, everybody. I am JM Luxury Travels. My husband purchased me a business for my birthday, so I thought that was great. And I think we are having a wonderful talk right now. But let me tell you, I had stopped coming on Twitter because if anybody had been in any rooms with me, I think I was trying to get my people ready for all of this since I came on here, and no one wanted to listen to me. And I kept trying to tell them. They wanted to call me crazy old woman. They wanted to call me everything but the child of Christ. And I was trying to get you ready. But I will tell you one thing. And working with the alphabet people, I found one thing to be their best asset, and it is to cause chaos, to put fear in everyone, to do everything. Now, gas is going up. Yes, it is. But I'm going to be honest with you. I have seen more of my people become rich when they say that we are going into a recession, when they say that the dollar is falling. Our dollar never meant shit. It's a piece of paper that burns. It never meant nothing. Our dollar is by, what is it, thingy. So what I do is I look at the UN. Is China in the UN? Okay. Now, so the only one that's not in the UN that I mean, off top, that we have discourse with is Russia and North Korea. Am I correct?
Everyone is in the UN. Russia is even on the UN Security Council.
Okay, so is North Korea in there too? Jung Young-ung, or whatever his name is. Is he in there too? My fate.
Sister, we probably have to look that up, but I seriously doubt it.
I don't think he is.
I seriously doubt that one. I think every other nation is, but not North Korea.
Okay, so I want to tell you this, and this is from a government agent herself, and I don't care. I've been watched. I'm getting everything. I'm on every blacklist that you can put, and they know this. That's why I just chose to back off. But at this point,
in that town, man.
My family needs me, and I'm going to tell you,
demographics.
The worries,
some black people living down there.
You don't have to do Texas. So much worrying. I'm gonna be honest with you.
All over Texas, man. 10%. Yeah,
the one thing they want us to do is
it's pretty standard.
Be fearful. When we get fearful, we buy a lot. We buy so much that we go broke. We lose our jobs. We because we're not going to go because of that next pandemic. I'm going to tell you a secret. We were not the ones that died the most, that died of this pandemic that just passed. I think we all know that. In New York, when they had the long freezer trucks that they alleged were putting the bodies in, no, they had the CIA in there. And they were just listening to any and everybody on iPhones. And they know that on the my phones, they turn your camera on when they feel like it, and they want to see what in your house. Say you come home from work and you're arguing with your wife, and you're arguing about the money issues or something. Okay, they try to make that come true. This is the kind of bull that they do. This is how that white man is, I'm telling you. And when I found that out, I was telling my family, and I found that's why they started to say, well, you know, people with who already have conditions will have a higher chance of passing away, of transitioning from COVID. I mean, from C. Sorry, from C. I apologize, brother. From the C. Well, most of the time they go there and they're not getting the treatment that they're supposed to. And the first thing they do, they put the tube in. When they put that tube in, that goes straight into your lungs. The moment they get into your lungs, if it's not taken care of well, then guess what? Embolisms go, and boom, you die. So it's people were going there and getting killed. that didn't necessarily have to. So I want us to stay where we are. Stay like where y'all is. Keep it in mind that they are dastardly like this. So everything you are saying is correct. Just say it in your head. It is correct. But I don't want my family to get chaotic, to get upset. Live your life like it's your last. Take your wife to Hawaii if that's what you want to do. Do your things like as if nothing is going to happen. They are looking for us. We're trying to get reparations, and they don't understand. This is the latest thing. They don't understand. Because the last time I heard, why are those niggas not angry? Why haven't they stormed the White House? Why haven't they? They're looking for us to act like animals. And we're not. We're doing everything the correct way. And it's bewildering to them. They think we have something behind, we're doing something behind the scenes, and they are so afraid because they don't have enough white people that even with their military, because we have black people in the military, even with the military, they don't have enough people that could come up against the black race.
Okay, here we go.
Now, I'm going to tell y'all something. I don't know if anybody is keeping up with this Jaguar Wright thing, but I took a look at her.
You talking about the crazy lady?
Right. And if you look at her, she's in jail right now. So a lady put her jail record up. I'm looking at it, and do you know they now have black and then black American as races now? I wonder who made that happen.
You said black and black American?
Yes. Now
I've never seen that before.
Yeah, that's always on certain forms because there's a difference between black and black American. Black meaning you.
I never seen
I had never noticed that. I was African American. I've never seen that.
I was a detective and I worked in the government. I've never seen it on I'm talking about any forms that has to do with jailing. I've never seen that. You were either African American and then that's your black. That was it.
Okay.
But I have been retired for a while, so I don't know. New stuff came up, but when I seen that,
I don't tell that often, so I don't know.
So we need to put that to the test. Let's see if we can get somebody to go to jail, and then we can see.
I'll actually put it if black majority will allow me. I'll put it up there in the PTR, and you can look at it. And it has black and then black American. And I said, okay. So even a Indian can come over here and say he's black now, because he is black, right?
You know, they generally check white, but yeah, they generally check white. But go ahead, so we can.
But when you look at, everybody wants to be white until we beat this reparations thing. Then watch how many people want to be black.
This reparations
you getting what I mean? Because white is right. This is what they think. They got the complexion for the protection. But I love my blackness. I love my black women. I love my black men. And I am so happy I was born in the skin I am in. The fight and all. Because one thing we don't do, we don't fall. And that's their problem. They try to take us out. They take out one, and 7 is born. So for one, say I pass away today, there's 17 more babies being born the same moment that I take my last breath. And I love it. So, but ask them how many white ones are born.
Right. Okay, so let's reset it. The title of the room is "No One is Coming to Save Black America."
No one.
If we don't, we won't survive.
We will not survive.
We got a new speaker on the stage.
Let me
DJ L Beats.
Peace to the room. How you guys doing?
Good.
Yeah,
Son,
so
wake up.
I'm gonna share a couple things from my end that I've been encountering the last couple of days. I haven't been on Spaces, but like y'all know, I'm from Chicago, and right now we dealing with a real fucked up situation.
Oof.
And not necessarily the violence, because we've already talked about that. We talking about the migrant thing. Right now,
I got that up there too.
I'm from a neighborhood called South Shore.
Yes. I
And
got
South
that up
Shore
there,
in
bro.
Chicago,
Thank you.
if anybody knows, it's comparable to like a Harlem or like a Queens in New York, or maybe like
it's in the
a more affluent
Jumbotron
area, in maybe LA or something like that. Basically, like it's like a traditional black bastion. Muhammad Ali lived in South Shore. Farrakhan's mosques in South Shore. It's just like it's Operation Push. It's like a traditional black area. And South Shore High School, which was originally Jewish, and obviously white flight black people came in that side of town. We took it over. Basically, it's about to be the staging ground for the immigrants.
Man.
Basically saying, hey, we're gonna put them all in the black community.
Yes.
And it's a big uproar about that right now. Like, man, you're gonna have us bust all these immigrants into the heart of the black community, and
thank you.
And try to juxtapose it, and the leader of the commission is Mexican, and
wow.
You got all this traditional black neighborhood I grew up in my whole life. My mom been there since the 60s. It's just a funny thing to see. I'm saying that to say,
damn,
war is on the horizon, man. I'm really, I'm seeing this shit, and I'm seeing like, man, and I know it's happening in other cities too.
Yeah.
All of this shit is kind of just happening at the right time. And when I say right, I don't mean right as in good. Right as in just
coincidental.
It's just funny that shit is happening like this. Even in New York with the kid getting choked out, Jordan Neely, I believe his name is.
Yeah.
Just the optics of that situation. It's just we at war on so many fronts, and the regulation of what it means to be a young black man, a young black woman, and the word is not necessarily getting to the youth in a sense. That's what disturbs me. So to the topic, when it says nobody's come to save Black America, man, I agree, but we in a dilemma of the ages. We got to figure out what the hell we gonna do. I mean, we telling people to get on code in these rooms and spaces, but the message got to penetrate to the masses on the streets, because the white supremacy to me right now, and I'm gonna rap with this. Man, they pushing this Mexican in front of that gun, man, and they really with it. I mean, I'm like, and I want to share the link. When you see a traditional black community like South Shore, if y'all, I know y'all not from the Chicagoland area. That is as black as Harlem, to Chicago. That's like these, I don't know the comparable areas in the, certain cities, but it is black Chicago. You know what I'm saying? And for them to say, hey, we gonna send every Mexican that's coming from Mexico.
Intentional. I just did a post about this.
This traditionalist black community.
I just did a post about this, man.
What you expecting to happen?
Everywhere.
They're talking about, hey, we need to treat this as a humanitarian mission. This is what, like, I wish I could play the video for y'all to hear it. You got this Mexican lady up there that's running the task force, sitting in front of 1,000 niggas
everywhere
in a
black
gym
communities are.
that
This is where they're sending these
shit,
motherfuckers.
10 years old and 90 years old, telling black people, we got to save some Mexicans. Bitch, we need saved. Fuck is you talking? You know what I'm saying? So I'm watching this, 31 years old. I'm saying, man, I see what the hell is going on. Now juxtapose that, like I say, right now, and I'm speaking for my region, you know, you got 10-year-old, 9-year-old kids carjacking 50-year-old ladies, hitting them in the head with the pistol. How do you call some niggas to regulate that? They don't even know the baby. They like, man, I don't even know the kid. How can I? So this shit is just at such an all-time low. The consciousness is up, and now we pushing these agendas to say, hey, man, America, we need our check. And I just kind of, and like I say, the brother Black, also, you know, the sister, Mischief, you know, so I know I love how y'all run y'all rooms. That's why I come in. I just want to ask and pose that question to y'all. How do you think this thing is, man? Because we fighting on every front. We fighting in the fucking NBA. We fighting in the NFL. We fighting in the streets. We fighting in the conspiracy and higher academia. Our peoples is fighting in jail. We fighting in the reparations. We fight. We are fucking fighting, and that's what we do as a people. But you know, I'll be honest, and I would be remiss if I didn't say, at 31 years old, I am having true. You know, I want not anxieties and panic, but like, oh shit, this is the shit that they talked about in them fucking DVDs in 06 and 07 when we was kids listening to the scholars. Now that these brothers is dead or the transition, and this shit is here. It's like it ain't a talking point in a fucking YouTube video when you're trying to get knowledge yourself. This shit is here.
It's real.
This Mexican, I mean, when I'm watching the news and they got 100,000 Mexicans and they talking about the Title 42 ended, and they come in, they finna get them citizenship, and they putting them in the black community, and then they raise and rent 150%. You can't even afford to live. If I'm 15, 16, 17 years old as a young black about to approach manhood, and shit, I don't, man, what the fuck is you like? So it's like, man, right now the reparations message is so valid.
Like
I will conclude with this because I know I'll be random, but you know, y'all, I love, you know, just getting out. Because this is what I feel like the general public, as far as the young people, this is how they feel.
No, you're
right now
there's a
in these major cities, people can't afford fucking rent. You know, the hip hop shit, they thought that was a way out. Shit, every motherfucker in the world is rapping. And higher academia, shit, the chat GPT coming in, they phasing that out. It's like they really sucking the motherfucking oxygen out this motherfucker, and it's like, then you got this national, you know, it's like,
you
got a fucking national election next year. You know that's gonna be some shit in the bag. So it's just like, we gotta be strong, man. It's like, you know, man, bro, I'm a rapper. It's a lot of emotions I got because I've been watching this shit. I'm like, whoa, this is a vicious game that they running on the babies. And niggas is coming in the room arguing about you this and this and that and that. Man, if you feel, like I said, if you a young millennial, not millennial, I guess they Gen Y, so whatever this generation is.
Okay.
Man, this shit is just at an all-time low. We are survivors, but the elders got to get really and sit with the babies, and we got to figure something out. When I say babies, I'm talking about in 2020, 2012, I was 20 years old. That means that a kid right now that was born in 2012 right now is about 11 years old. These is the kids that the white power structures on fucking Fox and NBC saying these is the fucking menace to societies. These kids ain't even hit puberty yet. And they out there doing motherfucking armed rob. This shit is like crazy. Like right now, they got a kid, man, right now that they just arrested. This kid got like 52 suspected carjackings. They came and locked this little boy up in his 7th grade class. G.
Yeah, he's 12 years old, right? Yeah, I think
you know what I'm talking about, sister. So it was just like, how do you, even if you was trying to, you calling around like, hey, let's to the big homies or whatever, hey, stop the little niggas from carjacking. This nigga 12, they don't even know the kid. He's a kid. He you know what I'm saying? So how do you? It's like you ain't that big homie system. That shit is over. And now it's like they don't even understand. See, that's what I feel like's finna happen. You finna have a clash between. First of all, they don't know who come in over this border. This shit could be Scarface. You could have these cartel niggas up here. Now you putting them in direct opposition with our babies because they not putting them in the Mexican neighborhood in Chicago and New York. They said we're gonna house these niggas in black high schools with a black male coming in like, well, shit, I don't know. Dude, this shit, any moment. What if one of these babies gonna kill one of the Mexicans or vice versa or anything happen? We got a fucking race war with the fucking Mexican. So I mean, it's getting there. We just saw the Mexicans were trying to put the hand behind the boy back. So I think that's the last trick for white supremacy. They finna push this Mexican in front and see if we could get that going. And it been really brewing. And, I just want to hear y'all thoughts on that, man. I appreciate y'all letting me rant a little bit. Peace.
I'm always of the mind that whatever the white man puts out there is going to eventually backfire on his ass. He wants that to be the next roadblock for us. And I can see it being a stumbling block for a minute. But I also think that whatever he puts out in front of us, he's going to regret it. It's going to backfire on his ass because everything he's been touching lately has been turning to dust. So we're going to eventually make that turn to dust. These young brothers who's out here, who's doing these things, it's a little heartbreaking to a certain degree, but I look at this as a new generation of warriors because they don't give a fuck, and that's the kind of energy.
They don't give a fuck about
They don't give a fuck.
I ain't never seen no shit like this.
Nope, I haven't either. I mean, I ran with the gangs when I was younger, but when you're talking about some people that don't give a fuck, these little young kids coming up now, they are the epitome of no fucks given. And so to a certain degree, I'm like, we need to get the little homies, you know what I'm saying, in check a little bit. We need to redirect that energy. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I'm sitting back like, let them rock.
Is all about not giving a fuck. What do you expect?
Something that's got to come to something that's got to come to a head. It's young brothers like you, DL, that could do a lot more for this movement than maybe you're thinking that you can, because it's the guys your age and maybe a little bit younger who can reach the youth, who can wake this shit all the way up. Who can go out and do certain things, because you are of that mindset, and you can look at it from an older perspective, as well as understand the younger perspective as well. And right now, we need all heads to come to the table to bring forth solutions.
Real quick, all the shorties I talk to, I'm gonna be real. They are more politicized than people think. And they are so anti-democratic party. It's like listen, if this dude, look, I'm not, per se necessarily involved in the political stuff, but if Trump don't win, this bitch going up. He got, everybody's going, like, I'm not saying like I'm just pro-Trump, but I'm just saying what dude is talking about in the black community, the shorties is feeling it. They look like, why the fuck Mexicans coming in my neighborhood? Like, see, it's hitting them now. See, beyond the rhetoric and the debates and the red line, like shit that the general public that may not be in the know may not understand. But they like, damn, why is my grandmama rent higher than a mother? Why is eggs $62 a motherfucker? So they feeling it. So they like, hold on, this ain't it. This is not it, man. Hell no. Shit, it's just on every level. That's what I'm saying. Like, and they're comparing his whatever I'm not picking one slave master over others. They all wicked. But what I will say is, it's gonna be interesting to see this next 18 months. And I implore all black folks, hey man, start preparing, because niggas ain't preparing. Let's keep it real. Niggas just Cinco de nigga all yesterday. It was just crazy. And I'm like, man, these niggas partying, they and bullshitting, as we do. Because, you know, we the life of the party. We celebrate the Mexican shit more than the Mexicans. They look like, God damn. We party more. We more, man, look, niggas, I love our people, man. What you call it, DL? You said they were Cinco de nigga. Cinco de nigga.
I like that one, don't you, Trouble? I like that.
You know, that's what it is. You know what, DL? I can't understand why we celebrate Cinco de Mayo, man. I never ever understood that.
I don't.
Niggas just want to party for a reason to kick it. That's all. We
it's an excuse to drink. Yeah, it's an excuse to party. Yeah.
Niggas don't care about no
can I ask you something? You said you're 31.
Yeah, I'm 31, man. And look, I'll be with the killers. I'll be with shorties that's really fried, like preaching to these niggas. And you know,
I'm gonna tell you one honest truth. I love Chicago. I come all the time. You know, Crux the rapper and things like that. My husband do things with him. I'm always up there, and I always tell everybody the truth about Chicago is that there are free men, and the people that you're getting killed by, those are undercover cops, CIA, FBI, Somalians, Latinos. They're everybody except freedmen. You understand what I'm saying? Like, and that's the fucked up part. Who else?
No, I didn't say anything, but no, you're right. It's a lot of, we don't know who's in these communities, but then also I will say this, man. It's just, beyond trying to decipher it, because we know the agents is in the mix. I'm just thinking more ahead of the curve, and beyond me being from Chicago, this is a fucking New York issue. This is a Los Angeles issue. This is Atlanta.
Pittsburgh issue. It's a world issue.
This is a national issue.
That the baby, young black youth, like the sister said, man, I don't know if this is some ancestral shit. They don't care. And like, they don't care for real. Like, they like, you know what? Fuck it. I survived COVID. It got to be another COVID level thing to humble niggas. That didn't even humble niggas. Niggas was outside, fuck COVID. The white kids were saying it.
Yeah.
Everybody was just saying it. So my thing is, I just really feel like you say, sister, us as a community, we got to prepare, because I truly believe the next 18 to 24 months, one of these narratives, whether it's the China narrative, the Russian narrative, one of these narratives that they've been putting in place is going to hit a head. And some has got to give. Some got to give. Niggas can't afford listen, the economy, one of these little timelines that we've been on, some is gonna break the camel's back. Some straw is gonna break the back. I think we think we could. I'm not saying we not gonna overcome. We've been here long as it's been a problem, but I think this is a really dope, not dope, but it's a really crazy inflection period, because, and this is some real gangster shit I'm finna say. Niggas selling dope, niggas is scamming, niggas is doing, women is prostituting, and it ain't enough. It ain't enough.
You're right about
that. Those things have been going on for
we going hard as in every game. Niggas selling hundreds of pounds of weed, hundreds of thousands of pounds of cocaine. Niggas is stealing money and doing all this negative, and it ain't enough. Niggas playing thousands of hours of basketball, baseball, football. We are going so hard.
Can I tell you something?
Right. So what we need to do
we need that fucking money. they owe us.
No, you know what I would suggest, and I'm going to be honest, and I have been saying this for the longest. Black people, pull back. Pull out of their systems, all their systems. Let's buy from each other, because it ain't like we can't make everything that is needed to be made because we invented this shit. So pull out. Pull your dollar back. Pull it out. Go shadow. We're gone. Just go black.
Like, I'm gonna tell you this what's gonna happen because one thing since I want to point out that I don't know if y'all peep, a lot of these quarterbacks, a lot of these athletes, niggas are starting to speak out. They, people starting to go anti-establishment, but that's what's so funny. It's like, damn, I was thinking like, man, why is all these white folks letting all these other groups in this motherfucker?
Have you seen their contracts? Why did it take their money to start getting taken away before they start speaking for their brothers and sisters?
No, well, we know
that's where I got a problem at.
Right, we know that, but let's talk about the real plan, because that's what's confusing to me. I'm saying, man, then we sitting back and we waiting for a shit hits the fan type of situation. But I'm asking myself, damn, if they say a nigga built all this, and they know they owe a motherfucker debt, they bring in another. It's like that kills white supremacy by bringing that Mexican in. The Mexicans sit back and they gonna undermine the country because
it doesn't undermine white supremacy because these other groups are white supremacists.
Yeah, they right with them.
So
I think they're Trojan horses, though, sister. I really don't. I don't think that like the white man is desperate, and he know that, man. I got all these niggas in here. They waking up and they asking for this fucking money. We ain't let them really eat like that. That's why I feel like they gotta get reparations because.
Oh, you really want to get pissed off?
Well, hold up, Secret.
They letting these illegals over. They letting these illegals over, and they giving them $200,000 to get their life started.
Right. Yes. Let's go to. Hold on, right quick, you all. Let's go to Sister Taxation. She's had her hand up for a while.
I'm sorry, sister.
What the hell did Sister have to say?
Do your thing, sister.
These folks so tough.
Death. I'll tell you what. Y'all talking about the shit is about to hit the fan. The shit didn't hit the fan. Y'all can't see it.
Oh my God! Thank you.
It hit the fan a long time.
Me being 70, it been hit. It hit like
I want to read something to y'all because I have been trying to tell everybody years ago. If you look up at life and more life and hashtag water wars, just go back and see how long I've been talking about it. Because I've been trying to tell people part of what I do is forecast. Okay? Here, I want to read you something. 4 days ago, Mayor Eric Adams put out a tweet. Here it is. I'm proud we've helped New Yorkers save money on their water bills, but some keep ignoring their obligations. This week at NYC Water began placing shutoff notices at office buildings and homes that have major debts. Now pay up or get your water turned off. Who do you think that applies to?
Black folks.
Thank you. So when you say who's coming to save us, ain't nobody ever came to save us. We have never been saved by anybody. Y'all got to understand that. No, it's not even, you all are talking about nobody is coming to save us, and what you should have been saying is, ain't nobody ever saved us but us. That's the thing. And DJ, here's what I want to say to you. You talked about that little boy had stole those cars, and it reminded me of a story years ago. My son is 45, okay? And he had a little crew, back in the day when they was young, they all hung out. And white folks in the town, the police and them, they tried to say that they were a gang. I said, they're not a gang. I had to fight against them, telling them that those black kids were not a gang. Well, it was one little boy. He was the brother of one of my son's friends. He was younger brother. And he was like that. He stole some cars. He would steal them cars off the car lot, though. He would go to the dealerships and steal cars. He was good at it.
He wasn't steal from our people. He steal from the crackers.
He went to the dealerships, see, and he was good at it. And they couldn't catch him. They didn't know who was stealing them cars. I didn't know it for a long time either, because, you know, they don't tell everything. And pretty soon they found out who it was and picked him up. And then when he got in trouble, that's when I found out he had been stealing them cars. And I'm going to tell you what I did. I got him out of trouble the first thing. You know, he wasn't completely out, but he didn't go to jail. And he was young. He was about 12 years old at the time. And I told him, I said, listen, I said, you apparently like cars. You like to fool with cars. You like to drive cars. You like stuff about cars. I said, what we going to do is let you go over here to this guy. He owned, a black guy owned a Jiffy Lube. Okay. I said, and I'm going to see if you can go over there and just hang out, sweep floors, and let them see if they can teach him something at an early age. And the man did. He let him come in there, you know, about 2 or 3 times a week. Couldn't keep him there because he was underage and stuff. But that's how you help people in the community. And I'm going to tell you this, DJ, after a certain age, kids that age, they don't want to hear from people as old as me. They have to hear it from you. Because
thank you, taxation. Thank you for saying.
Excuse me. They're not going to receive the information from me. You have to make sure that the age factor comes into play. That's why I can't go out there. If that 12-year-old boy that you talking about stole them cars 52 times, he wouldn't listen to me, but he'll listen to you. And you can use the same method I use to reach him. It's really all about each one, teach one. That's where we are in this country, and we always have been. That's how we keep our little underground system moving and circulating. And that's why I come and talk to you all and find out who's who and who does what. And are they righteous? Are they really about the people? So that I can connect the people that need to be connected. And that's what we have to do. That's exactly what we have to do. Now, here's the other thing. What do we do with these people coming into our community and think they're going to run our community? I forget where it was, but somebody put up a tweet. It'll come across my timeline again, and I'll put it up. They was getting ready to bring those immigrants to a black town, and I can't remember where it was, and this was very recently, this week. And do you know them black folks stopped them? They all got together, and that's what you have to do. It's very disheartening for me to hear about what's going on in Chicago, because I saw the plan when they lifted Obama up and put Rahm Emanuel in there and turned it into a shooting fishbowl, which is what they did on the south side, and moved everybody over to the west and all that old kind of stuff. You know what they did. And when they did that, I said, this is never going to be the same. And what they did was make room for those immigrants to come in there and do the work that black folks really shouldn't be doing anymore, because we should have been lifted up out of a whole lot of these menial jobs. Please be clear about that. Unless somebody wants to be a janitor, they shouldn't have to be a janitor. Understand what I'm telling you now. Because, see, those were the only jobs that we could get. We should have had more we need to have more availability in the employment sector for us, designated for us. And we are in dire straits in this country, and it's an all hands on deck situation. And no one has ever come to save us, ever in this country. And we have to save ourselves. That's what we do. But I will tell you this. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. If you don't have the numbers, they're not going to pay attention to you. You have to get in the streets in numbers. We tried to do a major boycott one day, just nobody buy nothing. Do you know half the people wouldn't participate, and more than half the people in the country, black folks, wouldn't participate in it? All we said was just don't spend money one day. Have a blackout day. You see what happened. Nobody would jump on, everybody wouldn't jump on the wagon. We have to have the numbers. We got to get our numbers up. And that takes people like you, DJ. It takes people you all's age, because they're necessary. You all are necessary to the movement. And you're the only ones that can bring those young kids in, because they're not going to listen to me. And I'm going to leave it there.
And you know what? No taxation. You said that exactly right. They don't listen to us now. I don't know if you remember no taxation. Me, you, Trouble, like all the older women, we would try to come on here and say stuff to try to move our people along. And guess what? They don't listen. We hear
well, these niggas on here is goofies. I'm talking the real killers and shorties out here that ain't on this, that's in these streets.
Now up in Chicago, when I went up in Chicago, I'm gonna be honest, they were quite respectful.
Can you hear Secret Sister? Can you hear DJ?
No, I didn't. Is he saying something?
Yeah, he was saying something, and you twice.
I didn't
know if y'all could hear each other.
No, I couldn't hear him. Say something, DJ, so I could see. Maybe I need to go out or something.
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, I can hear you now, but I didn't.
No, all I was saying is them clubhouse niggas. These niggas ain't no. The shorties is not on here. They out there.
Exactly. They're in the streets. And that's where you have to be, DJ. And that's where everybody has to be. And I will tell you something. Those shorties that you talking about, those are really frontline soldiers. Don't ever get it twisted. Those are frontline soldiers. Somebody just has to teach them. I can't do it because I'm too old. They would even listen to a woman if they knew she was an OG. They don't mind sitting around me and hearing war stories. They don't mind that. But as far as how you need to move and what you need to do and how you really, what gangster really looks like, they're not going to listen to me on that. They have to listen to you. That's why you all are necessary.
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to be honest. A lot of kids my age, too, well, they not, well, I'm grown. I'm fucking 30. I'm talking about, but people in my age demographic and younger, they divorced in the major cities. They said, fuck Chicago, fuck New York. I'm going to go to Raleigh, North Carolina, Kenosha, Wisconsin. They divorcing because they getting forced out. Can't afford it, man.
And locked out economically. It's gotten to the point where people can't afford. They said 77%, it just came out, I read it today, 77% of evictions in the country are black women. How about that? I didn't even know that. Black women. Now, if you think about the percentage of black women that have children with no men in the home, what does that look like? It looks like black homeless children, because the black children are with the mothers, see? And so we have a lot of work to do. And I'm not talking about men have a lot of work to do. I'm saying we have a lot of work to do. We all have a lot of work to do. See, part of what I need to do and what I do is reach the younger women, so that I can say, okay, who's in trouble? What do we have to do? Is there an organization? What's the city? That kind of stuff. We have got to do it.
Hey, Queen Sister, where's that statistic at?
I'll put it in the Jumbotron. I got it in my bookmarks. I'm going to put it in the Jumbotron. I can't put it in the Jumbotron. I'll send it over there to Trouble, and she can put it in the Jumbotron.
I'll put it up. Okay. But yeah, a lot of that has to do with a lot of these people, these landlords have stopped taking vouchers. So yeah, these women, these single moms with their kids, they don't have nowhere to go.
And another thing that happened, remember when it was the pandemic and they had that freeze on the rent? Well, the women and my daughter's friend was one of them. She was getting her money, getting her She got her income tax, was doing all kind of stuff. But she said, no, because they going to pay my rent. They said I don't have to pay rent. They got caught up in the game. They wasn't going to pay that stuff, and they wasn't paying their rent, and then all of a sudden, boom, it all hits. Now you owe $3,000 to $4,000 when you know you only make that little welfare money. And that's where they made their mistake. But you are right, no taxation. One thing we have to do, we have to get back to the brass beginnings, and that is the family structure. We have to make these men, not make them. The men have to make other men be men, because since I came on here, I don't do this social media stuff really all like that. I came on here and I've seen the least amount of men in my life. I see a whole bunch of whining mama's boys, and we need soldiers. We need men, because I want women to do their job. We have a big job too, and we all together, we have to do this together. But first of all, we gotta get out that white man system.
So I'm gonna ask y'all. So what do y'all think the answer is for what you just said, Secret Sister? Like, we call the men, the black men who have these kids and make these families and don't take care of their responsibilities and just do what they want to do and live their life being lazy or whatever, irresponsible. Them the Pookies and the Ray Rays, and they don't respect men like me. So what are we supposed to do to make them be men?
I guess at that point, that's when you get a group of you. One can't come up against a group of you. See, I found that because like the other day, it was a young man, and he was sitting here, and his pants was so far down. I seen all of his underwear, and I said, "Excuse me." I said, "Look, if you don't pull those pants up, we gotta first stop being afraid of our own. Those are our babies. I ain't scared of you. And we got to start giving them that fear that we were raised on." And he was like, "What you say?" I said, "You mean yes, ma'am." And he said, "You ain't my mother." I said, "And you ain't my child, but I know you better pull those pants up." And guess what? He pulled them up. And he was like, "I'm going to just pull them up because I ain't even going to get into it with no old woman." I said, "Long as you just kept it respect." I said, "Now, see, that's it." I said, "Now, everybody might respect you because you walking down the street like that, a white man, you a nigga. I don't want my black men to be niggas no more. Pull your pants up." I said, "Do you even know what that means? Try asking somebody that was in jail. You telling somebody that you ready to give that up." He said, "Huh?" I said, "Yeah, that's what you're telling them." And he hurried up and pulled his pants up. And I said, "That's what you're telling them." So he pulled them up, and the whole little crew, and they was like, "Oh, well, thanks, ma'am." And the day they came past, and it was like, "You need any garbage taken out?"
Oh, I let that go a little bit too long.
22-year-olds. I said, "No, but that was nice of you." They said, "No, I thought it was nice because I didn't know we wasn't in jail. We haven't been in jail, so I didn't know
up to the fucking stage.
Showing."
Damn it!
I said, "Yeah, you thought because you were showing an L and a V." I said, "You got LV boxers on. What kind of job you got?"
Hey, so let me give a different perspective on these people who, because I used to be one of those people. Thank God I had enough sense to move on. A lot of the people that I grew up with did not have the sense to move on. And you know, unfortunately, they went through that cycle of in and out of incarceration and early death. Um, you know, but let me say this: hardworking black men have got to be hardworking black men, and they've got to build whatever it is that we want to build. In my opinion, that should be a black majority state. Once you have the authority, I mean, literal authority to not only snatch people off the street, put them into actual rehabilitation, not like our current system of incarceration and warehousing and et cetera, but actual rehabilitation where they can be mentored and they can get skills training so that they can re-enter society with confidence as men, and they can earn a living and take care of their family, etc. Because usually, at least in my experience, young children that fall into criminal activity, it's because they're coming out of impoverished situations. For most of them, they're in poverty, they're hungry, and they're really just trying to eat, to be quite honest. They're trying to buy themselves a nice pair of shoes so that they fit in and they don't get ridiculed by their peers or whatever. And you know, one thing leads to another, and it just becomes a lifestyle. And I feel sorry for any rich kid that ever gets involved in criminal activity because they're just wasted potential. I've seen it happen. You know, it's just whatever. That's a whole nother conversation. But I, as a, you know, as me, as someone who's a hardworking black man and many other hardworking black men, I don't think that in this current state, in this current situation, the way it currently exists, that we have time and or enough energy to focus on that problem, because there are millions of problems that exist. And some of us are not going to make it, quite literally, and it's very unfortunate. But we gotta get so laser focused on a goal, whatever that goal is, and focusing on that goal and execute it in a very short period of time. And then once we have achieved that goal, whatever it is, then we can come back and put and as they say, put the ladder down for the rest of our people. We always talk about, well, I've been talking about 10%, but it's really like 1% of the population is actually at this level of consciousness, and it may be less than that. It might be a fraction of a percent at this point. And so what are we going to do as a people that are conscious to create a situation where we have the authority to do all of the things that we talk about? Because quite literally, if we expend our energy in all these other different directions, we're never really going to move the needle. We're never going to really accomplish anything. Yes, we will help individual people who may be close to us, and that is a great thing. However, for the collective, nothing changes. It continues to get worse because we're putting out little brush fires, but there's a raging wildfire that's a mile away, that's over the hill. We don't see it yet. We can't smell it yet. We don't see the smoke yet. But when the sun comes up, because we're fighting all these fires in the dark, when the sun comes up and that raging inferno comes towards us, we're going to be sitting there putting out all these little fires and wonder why we weren't in a position to actually take care of the much bigger issues. I really try to hold this space to try to deal with comprehensive solutions for comprehensive issues so that we can really, really, really make a permanent change instead of like temporary. Everything is temporary. We're going to fix this little thing. Okay. And then that fire goes out. Then there's another fire. And then there's 10 other fires. And then there's 100 other fires. And nobody's really, you know, I heard someone earlier say we're fighting, but we're not all fighting. it's really a small percentage of us that are really fighting. And it's just overwhelming to put that much on a small group of people. It really is. We got to find a way to use the system to our advantage, to herd the people so that we can get into the position to actually do something monumental. And I'll just end with that.
Okay, we're gonna go Sister Taxation, Muffet, and National.
You can let Muffet go, and I'm gonna hold back for a minute.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to say that was an excellent analysis. I was going to take it along that line too, from personal experience. I wanted to answer the young man. In my personal experience, when you have a business and you're able to offer the young people a job, that's what gains them respect.
Nice.
It's hard that our young people, like, we don't have that many businesses, so young people have to go to other groups for jobs. And they often get disrespected. When you have a business, I've noticed that the young people, they have respect for you. You ask them to do things both inside and outside the business. They'll readily do it for you. They're happy. If they don't have the skills to do certain jobs, you have to be patient. You have to help develop and mentor them to get to those that level to carry out the job. But it comes down to economics. It comes down to being able to offer someone a job where they can make a livelihood off of. That builds respect. They see their elders in a position to help them have a good life. And Gray was right. For those of us that have businesses or would be able to do that, it's still a drop in the bucket compared to how the serious situation we're in and the high level of poverty our people are in. So the only way you can actually tackle that on a large scale is by trying to acquire state power. It takes the power of a government, either state or federal, to take care of and help, or take care of our issues and help us on a grand scale.
It really does.
So if we're setting up priorities, I would say political before economic. Fight to organize, fight to gain state power in one or more states, and then once you have control of the state apparatus, use that power to better our economic condition through legislation, business development, vocational development, using the state to create banks, using the state to create insurance backers, and along those lines. But the respect comes with power. We have the ability to give jobs, we hold political positions. The young people will fall in line because right now they're errant. They're all over the place because they have no one to help them economically, socially. I'm not going to continue to repeat myself, but we get to that level of controlling a state, controlling government, having businesses, then everything else will fall into line.
Let me add this, because you talked about the fact that they're kind of mulling around, and the brother DJ talked about the big homie system that he kind of grew up under. And this is what happens when you have a leaderless existence. If there's no leaders in the community, there's no leaders in whatever it is that you're trying to do, you are ultimately going to end up with a situation where people are just aimlessly wandering around because they don't have leaders. And it doesn't have to be one leader. There quite literally should be tens of thousands of leaders. National.
Yeah, Brother Black, your mic.
Yeah, your mic did the little robot stuff. It made you sound like you was back in the hallway.
Okay.
But yeah, so I'm gonna chime in on everything that's just been said. So
damn it, they love fucking with my mic, boy. This fucking Twitter shit. They stay fucking with my mics. My mics sound nice. Check.
But I don't think that should be the number one priority. That's actually the number two priority. The number one priority is what Secret Sister said. We got to get the black family structure back. That's what it says on my bio. There's no black politics without the black family. And the reason that we are not being as efficient
I'm
and
against
effective
that.
as we can be,
I gotta go against
we
that,
are
bro.
fractured as a black people. There is no black community.
Listen to me.
There's a small fraction of a black community.
Listen to me,
but
bro.
for the most part, black men and black women are not making homes together. They are not in love with each other. We're not looking out for each other's best interests. We're looking out for our own best interests. So that's the first order of business as far as I'm concerned. Once we're together and we're making families and raising kids and living in the same households together, we can be on one accord as black men and black women, as black families, and actually getting stuff accomplished.
Okay,
but,
bro.
Right now,
yeah. Let me interrupt this because this is for me. This is an obstacle. How long in our current predicament, in our current existence, is it going to take to achieve that goal? Like in a very if you just had to put a realistic estimate, how long is it going to take to get enough people to achieve that goal?
I don't know, but what I'm saying is the larger goal cannot be accomplished without hitting that goal first. The black political goal will not happen as long as we are just a bunch of black individuals. It's not happening. We're not even going to be able. We're not even going to migrate to the states that you have suggested that we migrate to as black individuals. Black families can get together, pool resources, and buy some shit and move and make them kind of moves. Individuals they're not doing it. They're not going to save up for it. They're not doing none of that. So it's too much work as an individual to do what we're talking about.
Let me ask you this. I'm gonna just talk about the state of Delaware, where we need 300,000 to 400,000 voters. Do you think that there are currently, and this is like less than 1% of our population, do you think that there currently exists 300,000 to 400,000 Black Americans who are couples? So that would end up being 200,000 households. They have a strong family structure. They have all the requirements that you would need them to have currently today. Do you think that those people exist?
You want to know something that's going to shock you, Brother Black, and everybody?
God, I don't want you to answer.
Would you be surprised? I'm gonna try to. I'm looking for it right now.
Yeah. Okay, but let me. I need National to answer this question.
Black.
Okay. Yeah, I need National to, because we're having this conversation. I need him to answer that question.
I think are there that many couples that exist? Yes. Are there that many couples that are willing to move to Delaware? No.
Okay. So I'll take that. So you do believe they exist. You just don't think they're willing to move.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that's the problem. The people that are established, that are doing it right now, for the most part, no, I don't think they want to do it, because a lot of people don't want to be the quote unquote, the test case or whatever. So no, I don't think that they actually want to do it. Not enough. I think some of them will do it, but not enough for us to get the political control, or at least I say at first. But then after they see that it's being done, maybe others, could follow suit and say, oh, well, I see, a lot of black families are moving to this place to take over and have political power. So maybe that's something that they would consider at that point. But to get enough off the rip, nah.
Okay, so I appreciate the fact that you said that they have to see it happening in order for them to get on board. So 300,000 to 400,000, that's the whole state. But let's look at one county. So in the county of Kent, the number is 100,000. 100,000 in the county of Kent, which is where Dover, Delaware is at. Do you think that there are 50,000 couples that would move to Delaware, to that county, in order to take over the county government on the way to taking over the state?
I think, I think the case, if you could reach all of them, if you could reach enough of them, I think 50,000 couples would do it. I think we could get 50,000.
Okay, so let me back it up a little bit, because that is 1/10 of 1%. Like, that is fucking abysmal, to be quite honest. I mean, just being very, very blunt about everything that we talk about, how horrible everything is. We're talking about 1/10 of 1% of our population. Like, that is, oh my God, I could explode. To be I could literally explode. Okay, but I accept that. So the 1/10 of 1% of our population moves to this county. We start taking over county government and local and town governments, and we're broadcasting this information to the rest of our people to say, look, this is what we have done. This is what we are doing. This is what we have done. We need you then to move into these other counties. Do you think that, because you already said it, but I'm still going to ask, do you think that a physical, visual example of it happening in real time will then inspire others to join in the cause?
I think so. And I mean, and we don't even have to speak on the hypotheticals. Like, we have examples right now of those kind of things happening, like the city of South Fulton, which is now by percentage, the blackest city in America, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're still waiting to see the full results, because it's only been a couple of years since it got incorporated as its own city.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we it's out there, and you're right. Our people just have to see it. We got to see it to believe it, and most people don't want to be the first people to go and try to be the example for everybody else. That's just the stubbornness in us. People don't want to leave where they like, as we talked about earlier. If people would reject moving if they get reparations, and it's an adequate reparations package, like, it's just one of them things. Just being realistic about the psychology of our people. Like,
okay,
yeah, man, that's a hard battle. But I'm just saying, the more couples we have, the easier that battle is to convince them to move. That's how I feel.
Okay, let me ask you this. Well, let me say this. I don't know if you've heard this statistic. The Chicago Crusader did a study trying to figure out why are so many Black Americans leaving Chicago, and where, in fact, are they going? They did this study. They did a whole article about it, and they determined since 2000, 7.7 million Black Americans have moved to the quote unquote South. That means Texas, Florida, etc. All these bigger states, but also Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, etc. So does that number that, and I think this article was written in 2021 during the pandemic, that nearly 8 million of us have already returned to the quote unquote South. Does that, in fact, help with the fact that we're just trying to move 200,000 couples to the state of Delaware to control the entire state? In other words, if we sit around and we put obstacles in front of the goal, we're never going to reach the goal. If we sit around and we say this is never going to happen because of this, that, it's never going to happen because we keep putting obstacles in front of what is supposed to happen, what the goal is. If we simply have the goal.
So this is what I say, brother. This is what I say to that. So, like you said, for the people moving to the South, right? The Black folks moving to Texas, moving to Georgia, etc. There was an incentive that existed that wasn't political. Them people moved there for money. Them people moved there to be in the big city, to be around family,
here's the thing. Nearly 8 million people didn't move because there was a job waiting for them. That I know that's the argument, because I've heard it and I keep hearing it over and over again. There's got to be jobs. We got to have warehouses. We got to have factories. That many people didn't move because there was a job sitting there waiting for them. That's just not, that doesn't match reality. People are moving around the country all the time. Every single year, there's these intrastate migrations. Texas, Florida, California, they get like 500,000 people moving into the states almost every single year. So it's not always a financial reason. There's other reasons that cause people to move around. And if as a population of people that are going to be decimated in a very short period of time, if we don't make politics our number one reason for moving, then it comes a point in time where not only are we responsible for what happens to us, but we quite literally deserve it at some point, because the writing is on the wall, the cards are on the table. The president, who's a piece of shit, is putting up campaign ads with Mexican subtitles. It's literally over for us in this country.
You're right, brother. You're right. And I agree.
God.
It should be the number one priority. But sadly, for the majority of our people, it is not. That is not the main reason that they move. So the people that moved to Georgia, right? The people that moved to Atlanta. I don't know exactly how many people moved to Atlanta, but I lived in Atlanta. I was one of them. I'm one of the people that moved to Atlanta. And I heard the complaints and, oh, please, Atlanta's full. We don't need no more people coming down here. So even the people who are native Atlantans and lived in Atlanta all their life noticed it. And they feel like Atlanta is flooded. But again, I'll say it like this. Yeah, they moved down there, but they didn't do it in a strategic way, because it's just like, you know, I lived in the majority black places, Gwinnett County and in and around, you know, immediate metro Atlanta. So yeah, they can control Atlanta. They may control a county or two, you know, Fulton County, DeKalb County, maybe Gwinnett. Okay, cool. But they didn't bring those millions and spread out into those counties across the state, where it only would have taken a few of them to take over the counties and, you know, take over the county commissioner position. They could have had a bunch of black mayors in the smallest cities and towns around Georgia. They didn't do that. They all moved in and around the big city. So that's what I'm saying. It was not the politics was not the first thing on their mind. They wanted to live in a majority black place. They wanted to be around black people and be able to do black shit, be around celebrities, whatever, you know, whatever the allure is of Atlanta, they wanted to be around that. Schools, all that stuff. But it wasn't primarily politically driven, is all I'm saying. So to propose a place like Delaware,
I know we gotta change
now the way that our people think,
enough hearts and minds.
For a reason other than, oh, you can come here and it's easy to take over the politics.
Yeah, no, I agree about the Atlanta thing. I've been saying for years on here that
same
we need to move. We
That's
need to move.
from.
But I've been saying if we're going to do anything in Georgia, we need to move anywhere but Atlanta. I mean, quite literally, everywhere but Atlanta is where we need to be. But this is the way we have done it in the past, and we have to come into a newer level of understanding and a new level of consciousness. And yes, indeed, we will find the 400,000 people, and it's not going to be 400,000 people all at once. It'll be enough to get to levels of power within cities, within multiple cities, within the county. And it is a process of bringing in people over time. I mean, that's just how everything works. You're not going to, none of this is going to happen where we fill up 8 states next year. But we got to get started. We got to get people to focus on one state first so that we can, yes, prove the model so that they can see it can work in real time. And some people are going to have to be the sacrificial lambs, quite literally. They're going to have to be the people that are willing to take that risk. By the way, you can always go back home wherever you came from if this shit doesn't work out in a year or two, whatever the case may be. It's really no harm, no foul. It's as if it's really as if we look at America as a plantation, quite literally as a plantation, and it's as if you're being told some information that's telling you, and this is probably this is probably mirrors the Underground Railroad, where only a certain amount of our people actually chose to escape. 99% of the people did not leave, quite literally. And that's very unfortunate. No reason, the reasons why doesn't really matter. What does matter is it was a very small percent of people that actually left. When coming into the Civil War, the contrabands, the self-emancipators, it was about 10% of the population. It's always going to be a small percent of the population. And all I'm really saying ultimately is we have to find those people. That's all. We just got to find, we got to keep talking and talking and talking until we find those people.
This is what I say. I think, again, the test cases are out there. We're just waiting. They're so new that we haven't got to see the full results yet. So if a city of South Fulton, turns out to be successful within the next couple years, Freedom, Georgia, these other towns where these black folks have come together and bought a bunch of land and made communities. If they can show the upside to that, if they can show how that was a success and they made their little conclave of black safety and black power and all this and that, if we can take those examples and then show them to our people and say, hey, you can do this in this place, you can do this in that place, and we can start getting those places filled up like that. But I mean, basically, that's all I'm saying. Like, people don't want to be that sacrificial lamb, even though you're not wrong. They just don't want to be that. But those people in those places, South Fulton, Freedom, Georgia, a couple other places, like, they volunteered for that. And okay, so now we can use what they volunteered for as the proof of concept going forward for all the other places that we need to take over. But I also wanted to say this. I want to say, talking about the fight, right, and the analogy that you came up with, talking about the fires. I came up with that same analogy back in my Black Lives Matter police brutality days. I'm like, everybody wants us to run around to each fire, when we need to teach a community how to fight its own fire. But in your example, I said this too. Right, to what you're saying. You got all these fires, you fight one, it spread to 10, you fight to 10, it spread to 100. I said, we're fighting our issues combined, let's call it a 5-alarm fire. We got a 5-alarm fire that we're fighting as a small group of conscious black individuals, right? But we don't have, it's not enough of us, and we don't have adequate tools to fight the fire. It's a few of us in here that stay on these spaces that are really into this shit, hard body every day. But the way our efforts amount to us trying to fight that 5-alarm fire with cups of water, throwing cups of water. And what happens? Our water is just evaporating. It ain't putting the fire out. We doing the work, but we don't get to see the results because it's not enough of us doing the work. If 1 million people throw a cup of water on a 5-alarm fire, I'm sure it'll put the fire out if they do it all at once. But we need either more people or we need a more powerful way to fight this fire. And that's what we got to figure out. But yeah, I had another point, but I can't remember.
Okay, let me follow up with this on the Georgia initiative, the Fultons, and there's all these Black Wall Streets popping up all over the country. So let me just say this, and I think this is because for a lack of understanding of the history of Black Americans in the country, right? For whatever reason, probably the education system, no question, but we've done that and we keep doing that. And so what ends up happening is every other generation, we are essentially repeating the same steps over and over and over and over and over again. And it based on the past 150 or so odd years, you had this push of rebellions that essentially forced the Civil War. And then we had this explosion of information and learning and politics. and then they quite literally killed that whole. They just killed it, right? And then we kind of survived for 100 years, roughly, and then you had this other push and this explosion again of information, Pan-Africanism, politics, boom, 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 and then civil rights was birthed out of that. And now we're in a similar pattern where it's the fight is reparations, right? And so one would say, based on the history, we're going to fight. Eventually, you're going to birth reparations. And then the question becomes, what happens after that? And what I say is this: what happens before that? Because quite literally, reparations aside, if we keep every 50 to 100 years having to push our way to some level of humanity within this country, eventually there's not going to be enough of us left because of the numbers. See, there was a time where, and this is, I mean, they've been bringing these Europeans in, like just fucking flooding the country with Europeans in the 1900s. Now they're flooding the country with everybody, Mexicans and everyone else. Eventually, we're going to be in a position where it's not us against the white people who kind of, we know each other, the devil you know theory. These are going to be people that don't know us. They don't care. They don't give up about us. They want to get rid of us. They'll have no problem with getting rid of. They'll have no conscience about it because they have no connection to us. So they're going to do everything they can possibly do to keep us locked out of the society with no sympathy.
Okay, so you're exactly right, and we've talked about that. So this is the trick, right? Either way it goes, we need the states. Ideally, we would like the states to be granted to us in the reparations package, and then we had,
that's never. No. Earlier you said don't say never, and I was about to turn that back on you, but that's never going to happen. The United States does not have a process to give away authority and or territory at all. That's unconstitutional, and they will die on that. So they're never going to give us anything. You have to physically take it, either by force or by politics, but they're not giving us anything.
Okay, got you. If you believe that, I accept that. Cool, because I think when it comes to reparations, the debt is so large, you have to throw all convention out the window. I don't know what they will do or what they won't do if they do pass it. I don't know. I just know what people will request. I know what people have asked for, what people think we are owed, and that's all I know is the quote-unquote laundry list of demands that we as the people have issued. I'm going to put it together, all the different organizations, different groups. I'm going to put it all together and send it to you so we can send it out and let everybody see what's being requested in totality, right? But, okay, if they don't do it that way, then what happens is, okay, we get the states. We get the states, whether with or without reparations. If we don't get it if we don't get the federal protections and the protected class status in our reparations package, then it's a game over. We can move over and take over those states, and then we would just have to do the best that we could to make it uncomfortable for everybody who wasn't black, so they chose not to come and move into those states. But without any kind of federal, any kind of laws on the books to say, hey, those black people moved over there, they took over those states, blah, 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 let them run their shit. It is what it is. Once they outnumber us, we are at the mercy of the people who outnumber us, like we've always been. That's the whole point of us moving to those states, so we could be the majority in those states, and we don't have to worry about that. But yeah, if they outnumber us anyway, even after we moved to all those states, then we never had a chance in the first place. We was doomed from the start.
Yeah, so the way the numbers work out is we have to get to a 60% voting majority, and then we can elect our people into positions of power, the governor, the legislators, etc. It's a very simple calculation, and the states on the map are the states where our current population Doesn't require even 100%. It's just it requires a significant percent of the people who don't live in those states to move to the, like Texas, Florida, California, whatever, all around the country outside of those 8 states. But that's I'm gonna be very upfront. 8 states could take several decades to accomplish. In my lifetime, 2, 3 states, a 4th state would be like insane, to be quite honest. But to get 2, I think is very realistic, and those 2 it would be Delaware and Mississippi, because they're the states that require the least population. They're the states that are the closest numerically, and so those 2 states could happen in a very short period of time if people simply, like people in Memphis. There's probably enough Black people living in Memphis to just move 30 minutes south into the state of Mississippi and have numerical numbers to take over the entire state of Mississippi. It's the same thing in Delaware. There's enough Black Americans living in Philadelphia to move south 30 minutes to take over an entire state. And so this is really like a political darkness, unawareness, whatever term you want to use, that we just don't really understand the system, because we keep looking for the federal government to protect us. I want to ask you, because you mentioned federal protections, I want to ask you this question, and I ask it all the time. How is the federal government going to protect Black Americans when it does not care about Black Americans? That's number one. Number two, there is a system where you have the federal government, you have state governments, you have local county governments. And the federal government doesn't have the authority to come into these states and just do whatever it wants to do. There are systems in place. They operate within those systems. They don't care. I'm just saying, they just don't even care. That's the whole first part. But if they did care, when they chose to care, and they weren't playing politics with situations, when in fact would they protect 50 million Black Americans over the next 500 years? I don't know why people throw that out there and land on that and then just kind of move on as if that is a solution, because it's not a realistic solution, because the federal government doesn't have enough agency or agents to provide that level of protection across the entire country consistently over time. That's why they pick and choose individual cases whenever it's politically expedient for them to get involved. That's not going to change.
I'm not saying they need to be our bodyguards or our personal police force or nothing like that. But when I'm saying federal protections, like protected class status, i.e., something along the lines of it is a federal crime with stiff with stiff federal prison time to harm a Black American, i.e., physical harm, financial harm, etc. I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, they can't physically stop anybody from doing stuff to us, but it's just like with the anti-lynching law. Like, I might not be able to stop you from lynching somebody, but damn it, if I catch you, it's gonna be hell to pay. And all I'm saying is whether I don't know.
Okay. I just want to stop you as we're having a conversation. When has something like that, let's say a heavy prison sentence or even a death penalty, when has that really been a deterrent for someone who's intent on causing harm? I get the part about if you cause harm financially, I can see how we can go into some conversation about that. But if you're talking about somebody who's directly causing physical harm, when has a stiff sentence ever stopped somebody from doing that? In other words, because we got mainly these extrajudicial police assassinations of our people. But I mean, any situation you could think of where A black person has been harmed in this country, and there are many because they come across my timeline all the time. I'm reposting these fucking killings like it seems like daily, sometimes multiple times a day. Why would something that the federal government put on their federal books, and this crime happened in a state that's likely going to be handled at the state level, why would that federal law have any effect on that person who's intent on causing that harm inside of a state is the question.
Because I mean, that's the whole point of the reparations. I mean, at the end of the day, if we don't get the federal protections, just like what they did with the civil rights law and the voting rights and all that, if we don't get the federal protections, then there's no point in us getting it. There's no point in us getting reparations. The reparations without at least the letter of the law behind us, the spirit of the law protecting us is a dead end, because we already know how they're going to react how the Cliff people are going to react if we do get reparations and we do get a higher station in life than them. We already know what's going to happen.
Wow.
So if we don't get at least the federal protections on paper, at least we have something to work with then. Without that, it's just, we just waiting for Tulsa to happen again. Wherever we go, we just waiting for a bunch of race wars and riots and massacres and all that to happen all over again, and for the government to just stand by and watch.
Okay.
I did not think that was the purpose of reparations, of us getting reparations, just to let them come hurt us and take all the shit back or destroy everything that we build and get after reparations is approved.
Okay, I'm trying to get in there. Okay, so on a scale of 1 to 10, we get reparations tomorrow. Scale of 1 to 10, 10 being extremely confident, 1 being not confident at all. What is your level of confidence based on your history in this country that the federal government, and this is based on what you just said, is going to protect you once you get reparations? On a scale of 1 to 10, how much protection is the federal government? I get they're going to write this law, they're going to sign it into law. What level of protection do you think that law is going to provide to you and your family after you've gotten reparations? And you're saying that the society is going to respond the way that they respond. I just don't buy it. I think it's total fucking bullshit.
I give it a 4.5.
Oh damn!
I give it a 4.5. I'd rather it be. I'd rather it be there and be a possible deterrent to some than not be there and not deter anybody.
Wow.
And to answer your question, yes, stiff consequences have stopped a lot of people from doing a lot of shit. Yes, I got cops that I've spoken to. I got cops that are doing 40 years in jail behind some shit that they did, hurting people that they shouldn't have hurt, ending lives that they shouldn't have ended. And other cops have seen that example and decided, you know what, I don't want that to be me, so I'm not going to do that. Like at the end, you got to have a law there for at least the possibility to use it if somebody does harm to you. If there is no specific law there with specific consequences laid out, then it's just another day. It's just another crime. But it's just like with the hate crime stuff. There will be a lot more hate crimes being committed if the hate crime laws were not as severe as they are.
Wow. Oh man, I don't know. I agreed with you up until that point. I just don't agree with that part at all. But that's fine. I mean, we can keep that there. I don't think people that are writing manifestos and out in the woods fucking with tactical gear on training to murder innocent black people or give a damn about those laws, but that's just me.
No, and I agree, but I'm gonna say it's a difference between that's an extremist. What we're gonna see when we get reparations, it's not just gonna be the extremists who act out. It's gonna be the run-of-the-mill clear person who is gonna act out. So that's what I'm saying.
But
I'm not worried about
yeah.
extremists. You can't stop an extremist.
I operate from the position at this point in my life that they're all extremists. They all got guns. They all have the ability to murder a person. There's no in my opinion, there's no difference. But I respect that you make a difference. But let me ask you this, because you said a 4.5 federal government. If you were living, because you live in Georgia, if Georgia, in fact, we need about 3 million, a little over 3 million voters to move into that state. If we had 3 million voters move in that state, they spread out throughout the counties. We controlled a majority of the counties. We controlled the state legislature. We elected an actual Black American as the governor. And you had all branches of law enforcement, all state military defense forces under the command of the Black governor of that state on a scale of 1 to 10, and being in the protections that you would feel after reparations, what number would you give living in a state like that? You with me? Oh, damn it.
Oh, my bad. I said, let me throw this in there too. If we had that state, the Black majority state, and being Georgia with those, 3 million extra people, think about it. A lot of those federal positions, if not all of them, would be filled with Black Americans too.
I'm not
so that's where some of my confidence comes from. Saying,
yeah, the federal government has absolutely nothing to do with this scenario. This is a Black governor in charge of Black state defense forces and in charge of the state's law enforcement, county, local, and state. That's it. We ain't talking about the federal government. We're talking about the state of Georgia. How confident would you feel in that position?
It would go up to an 8.
Okay. All right. Okay. Then that's cool. I rest my case on that one. I appreciate it. Yeah. For me, it's a 10, but I get you.
I mean, like it's just, I understand as the Secret Sister said, the dastardliness of those others. And at the end of the day, if they're mad enough and enraged enough, it is to the death with them. And I mean, you can get attacked from everybody that's surrounding you. You know, that's why I say,
but bro,
we need to circle our wagons.
Were you a combat veteran?
Yes.
Okay, so then we already know what it is. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, there's a point at which the same level that they want to take it to, we have to be able to meet them with equal and opposite force. That's the whole point. Today, really our whole entire existence, we've never been in that position. And we want to move to be in a position that we can meet them with equal and opposite force if it becomes a requirement. That's the whole, that literally is the point.
But I guess you're right. I get that that's the point. But the thing is, will it ever be that? Will it ever be equal and opposite? Because at the end of the day, we're talking about civil war at that point. And if one state decides, or if a bunch of those people in our state that are still in our state decide to act up and do whatever they're going to do, and our Black elected officials and our Black law enforcement and Black military respond in kind to those people, what do you think the people outside those states are going to do? There's never going to be a time when they are going to sit back and let us have war or harm their people, and they're not going to try to gang up on us. So that's what I'm saying. When you're surrounded, okay, we got Georgia, but Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida. All right, now they sending everybody in on Georgia. Because, hey, we have to put down these rebellious N-words.
Yeah, I mean, again, if we only had, I think, so the way the plan works is we go from smallest to largest. and Georgia is the last of the 8 states on the way that I have it formulated out. But if we did it in reverse and we got the largest first, we still got significant Black populations in the military, in the federal government, and we also have significant Black populations in all of those surrounding states that you mentioned. So it's not so much as it's them rushing in on us, it's our people doing the same, saying, hey, if this is what it is, this is what it is. See, the thing about it is this: when you have that state power, that state authority, and you can project real power and real authority, you will be very, very surprised at how differently Black American men especially respond to knowing that they have a place to call their own. I just think that we're underestimating the power of that, and understanding that you could deputize people, you could arm people, you could put people in positions to defend that land. It's for me, it's a whole different mind state, and it's not thinking the way that you think today, living in the society as it currently is constructed or as it currently exists. It's thinking from, this is a Black majority state. This is where my family lives. I own this land. I own the water. We run the power generation in this state. We control everything. We are partners with the United States at this point. We're no longer just subjects, subjugated by these people. We are partners. And so it's just, my hope, my goal, the way I see it is that we no longer think the way that we think today. They understand that, because here's the thing. I see all these white people across the timeline either anticipating us getting very, very angry and upset, like, oh, the Black people are going to come. Oh my, they're expecting us, quite literally, whether it's a good thing or a negative thing. They're expecting us to come in and just tear shit up all over the place every time something happens. This is their anticipation. This is their expectation. And unfortunately, sometimes it's not happening. And so they're like, well, oh, damn. Like, oh, damn, I thought the Black people were going to come in here and tear shit up, but they didn't. When you have the authority to tear shit up, I think everything changes at that point for me.
I agree. And you're right. I may need to change my mind and think about, exactly what we control, what that means to be a Black majority state. Because you're right, I wasn't even just thinking about that, what you just said. We control the power grid, we control the water. So, yeah, we can make things very difficult for people to harm us or for them to survive in a civilized way and live their regular peaceful life if they do decide they want to take it there with us. But I remember that other point that I had, and it was what you said about authority and Black men respecting men who have authority. And yeah, that goes to something I always say. I say, Black men listen when you can freak them, feed them, finance them. You have to do something for a Black man or for men in general, for real, for them to respect what you have to say. What you're trying to tell them. Okay, yeah. So yeah, like with that, with the irresponsible men among us, you're right. If we do have an infrastructure and things that we run and businesses and jobs and we are able to provide or contribute to their livelihood, or they depend on us to do those things, then yes, they definitely will listen to that. But I mean, yeah, you're right. As of right now, we don't have a whole lot of that. So it's a lot of fuck you, who you talking to? You ain't my boss, you ain't my daddy, I'm grown, blah, blah, blah. I don't know, you shut up talking to me. So, but yeah, once we establish that kind of order and authority, then you're right, that dynamic will change too.
Yeah, I agree. Again, being a kid who was, I mean, I never was a knucklehead, but I was involved in some things, and I was around a bunch of knuckleheads, so I know how they think. Um, they knew who to respect and who not to disrespect. Let me put it that way. And I think that goes for any level of society. Doesn't matter how crazy you might think there is. There's somebody who they do listen to, and when you have the ability to again take somebody out of the society in order to rehab them, and again I do mean full rehabilitation. It changes their perspective on things. It really does. um and it starts off with a conversation, and it starts off with, this is the things that we will tolerate, these are the things that we won't. And once people are put on notice, even the hardest, hardcore, thuggish person on the planet, I swear to God, if you just lay out some lines, some boundaries not to cross, and if you can enforce those boundaries, that's really what it boils down to. They will respect the boundaries. I mean, bottom line. And that just kind of is what it is. So
you just said something that I wanted to ask you too. I remember that question. I said I was going to ask you, but you just hit on it. I was going to ask you, how do you feel about, the laws of the community? Because I've had the conversation, a hypothetical conversation. Hey, let's just say I run into a bunch of money. I got enough money to buy land, build homes, have some farmland, etc., establish a community for my people. I said I would have rules. There would be certain things that you couldn't do outside in public spaces, like, drinking and all that. You can drink at your house on your porch, but you can't be over here at the park, at the playground in front of kids drinking, fighting, cussing all out. Like, it's all kinds of decency laws that I would think that we would need to maintain and establish and maintain order in the productivity of our community. Just like we were talking about with the dress code, I would definitely have a dress code. Like, yeah, you're not walking around here with your drawers all out. Can't walk around all, super sexy and provocative and half naked and all that around. No, you do that at your house. You don't do that out here in this community. So how do you feel about those kinds of things?
Okay, so here, what I would say to that is, because those are like social standards. So there's two ways to look at it. One, you can educate a younger generation through curriculum, through programming, which unfortunately we get through a lot through entertainment. But you could create social environments and functions to reinforce those social norms, a new social norm, quote unquote. But I think that would be up to the community. So in a state, which is a vast amount of land, even in Delaware, even though it's very, very small, you could probably fit, I think the last time I did it was like 6 New York cities inside of Delaware. And I think there's like 12 million or plus people that live in New York City. So based on land, it's a small state. There's only 1 million people living there. But if you compare it to New York City, you're talking about a lot of land. And so in your community, or in that community where you have voted in your mayor and your city council, and you got pillars of the community, and you have these decency standards that you put on the books, and then you would have to have your law enforcement enforce those decency standards. As long as it's constitutional, I don't have a problem with any of it, to be quite honest. I think the issue always comes in with, are you violating people's constitutional freedom of expression, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, when it comes to making laws, when it comes to having community standards where the people are going to say, okay, well, this person acts this way. We are not going to socially interact with that person. They're going to lose a sense of community. They're going to be essentially isolated. Then that would be a way to approach a situation like that. Does that ultimately lead to the person leaving? They feel like they're not wanted. I mean, we can kind of see that happening in these Twitter spaces. People act out, they blurt out shit, they're rude to people. Eventually they kind of get pushed out of certain groups. So I think that's the way, it would be handled in a social format. The parents can come together and say, well, if you see my child doing this, notify me. But if you see them doing that, then please step in and have a conversation with them. So you can actually have these conversations socially and have civic organizations and things of that nature, and try to iron a lot of, because I think that's what was going on in the past, where it was just like, mothers talked to each other in the neighborhood, and they went to church together, or they did other things together, and they sat on the phone for hours talking about whatever was going on in the neighborhood. So I think that's a part of just being a community, you know what I'm saying, and having standards as a community. But if you want to write laws, you gotta always realize that, if you write a law that's unconstitutional, you're likely to be sued. It could be a financial burden, and et cetera, et cetera.
So this is, I wanted to ask you this. So what do you say to the people? Because you're talking about constitutionality a lot, and I get you, I'm with it. But there are people who make the argument that decency laws, period, are unconstitutional.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Oh,
people
man.
think they should be able to walk out the house wearing whatever they want or wearing nothing at all. Hey, it's my body, my choice. The nudists, especially, I think they're the main people who complain. But America don't give a damn. They say you can't walk out your house naked. If you do, you get public indecency ticket, blah, blah, blah. And they will say that is unconstitutional. They ain't hurting nobody. Why can't I walk around naked?
Let me see if it'll let me get in here. I was on, now I'm off. This phone is having a heck of a time letting me talk on here. I may have to drop out and come back. Yeah, that's what I think is happening here. Man, Twitter. It just won't let me stay in the space, man. What the fuck, bro? Twitter sucks. Oh, man. Okay, my bad. Yeah, for some reason Twitter just wouldn't let me get back in here. So yeah, I hear what you're saying. There are nudist colonies. They're usually secluded from the public. I know in some of these nightclubs, I agree with you, because I've owned bars in the past. I'm opening up a bar hopefully very soon, and I'm already going to institute a dress code. I don't want women showing up in basically bra and panties and like fishnet dresses, whatever. So I know exactly. I kind of get what you're talking about. You are going to have a constitutional lawyer help you draft laws that, are constitutional. And maybe you can, I mean, today, if you really were that concerned, you could probably go online and either search for lawsuits about dress codes and or find ordinances in cities about dress codes, or HOAs. If you're building like a little village community development, you probably can put in an HOA and put certain rules in the tenants of the HOA. And because people voluntarily move there, I think that gives you the ability to put some stricter, guidelines in a situation like that. If it's a gated community, you probably can put in some stricter guidelines. So I think again, it would be all about how you set it up, and at least took a look at lawsuits that have come down and or laws that have already been passed in other communities. A lot of times, if we're going to be honest, communities create laws, and they're really kind of testing the boundaries of the state constitution or the federal constitution, and it kind of might sit on the books for decades before someone actually challenges it. So you could always go that route, you know, try to put something in there, implement it, see what happens. If nobody complains, then you're good, you know, and if somebody complains 20, 30 years down the road, you know, you just have to visit it at that point. But yeah, if, on a personal level, I don't have a problem with communities having standards. On a legal level, I just say, you know, just do the homework behind it. That's all I would say. But let me say this. Let me also say this.
Oh, go ahead.
I believe that Black Americans have been restricted of freedoms our entire time here on some level, some way, shape, or form. So I am someone who is more on the side of giving us full freedom in every area possible, and not really trying to control human, I don't want to say habits, but and I don't want to say human nature.
You ain't trying to taper off free will.
Yeah, free will, normal human. Oh God, I don't know why I can't think of the word that I want to use, but you get the gist of it. Essentially, saying if we create a society that's so restrictive, why would people want to live there? At some point, it sounds like it would rise to the level of why would you even want to go there? You know what I'm saying? If I can go and live in Pennsylvania and do whatever the hell I want to do, essentially. You know what I mean?
This is the thing. I mean, and you're right. Then that's the choice you have to make. Because I wouldn't give a damn if it's us, if it's a Black majority state, and we're making the rules that are in the best interest of the Black family, the Black community, being productive citizens, etc. I wouldn't give a damn if it was against the Constitution, as long as
human behavior. Behavior.
That poses a problem because you cannot go outside the rules of the Constitution, and I don't see the point in restricting people's freedom of expression solely to build a Black majority state. What really should happen is that Black families start to look at certain codes and things within their own family structure. You regulate your family and bring back certain types of moral codes and ethical things within your family. You do not create laws around freedom of expression as far as what somebody decides to wear. If you want to relegate your schools to where they have dress codes, your businesses to where they have dress codes, but to say,
because you're
okay, you can't live in the state, let alone this neighborhood. If you choose to exercise your freedom of movement, your freedom of expression, your freedom to dress how you choose to dress,
a little Nazi-ish.
Nobody's going to want to move there. As Black said, we had enough restrictions and enough laws governing us that way. These should be moral things that we decide on our own to take on. And again,
normal human
you got to go within the realms of the Constitution, or you asking for more problems, you asking for more trouble, and we're not trying to trade hells.
Right.
I'm gonna look this law up. Right, there's a law in one of the counties outside of Harris County, like outside of Houston. Is it Columbia County or Brazoria? One of the counties, right? They have a law in the county where I believe you can't say the N-word. You actually can't say if a cop catches somebody saying, you know, the N-word in public, there's a fine. And then I think after the fine is jail time or whatever. But I'm going to look that law up because I learned about that a few years ago and it blew my mind. So Brother Gray King is definitely right. People put what they want to put on the books and they're worried about it getting challenged at the state level or in court or wherever later down the line. But I hear y'all. Again, just in the back of my mind, my thing is, speaking of the code, when have we ever been on code as a community? We haven't been on code because we haven't established the code.
There was a time when you look at some of the older pictures, you'll see that a lot of people in the Black community, when we stepped out
Yeah, we had codes. We had
stepped out to the grocery stores. The little boys had on their little suits. The girls looked like they had on their little Sunday dresses, or casual dresses, or
traditional
dresses, or what have you, and whatnot.
Traditions.
So there has been a time. I don't like the conversation where people try to make it seem like black culture has always been some kind of degenerate, dysfunctional culture when it hasn't been. So we really need to stop talking down on ourselves in that manner, as if we've never done good things as a people. We've never done this, or we've always been that. That's not true.
Yeah, agreed. And I think when you try to legislate, and the term I was looking for was human behavior. I think that's where you kind of start. It starts to sound like a Nazi regime in a sense, and or some other tyrannical, government, top down, control everything, peeping in your windows, checking your trash and everything else. I think in the one space I quoted the Bible and let my people go. I think it's really the goal is protection, prosperity, empowerment, but it's also freedom. Like it really is a greater sense of freedom is very, very, very important. And you can establish, community, social norms, traditional, whatever, simply by, having those conversations, coming together in community, having conversations, and holding each other accountable. I think ultimately, if we're looking for the government to hold us accountable, we're kind of starting off on the wrong foot. It should be the community holding each other accountable at some point. So yeah,
I agree with that.
Yeah, there's this, everybody knows this, man. This is a black man, and I'm not, he's walking down the street. This looks like the 50s, 60s. He's got on a suit and tie, hat, and he's in a white neighborhood, and they are just like pushing him around, kicking him around. I think there's the picture, and I don't know if this is the man with the picture where they make him bend down and kiss their foot. This was just a good black man, normal human being. They would not let this man exist just as a human being. So if I was in that situation, my pants would have been sagging. I would have said, "Fuck these people." When I was a youngster, as they always say. My God, man, we would have been riding on these people, man. we would have been circling the block on these folks. Just let it be what it's going to be. It's going to end up where it's going to end up, because there's no way that would be tolerable. But these were strong. That's the other thing. They were so strong in their will that they were able to survive, get home, to care for their families, and things of that nature. So God bless every single black American that went through that and came through and still survived, so that we could indeed be here to have these conversations and actually ultimately fulfill the goals that they keep getting derailed, because that's really what's happening. Every time our people have this goal, we keep getting derailed. We keep getting pushed off into something else. Here's Alabama. So Alabama, we talk about Mississippi, Jackson, water, everything that's going on. Well, in Alabama, this story says black residents were allowed, and it says in a poor county, to be exposed to raw sewage for generations. Raw sewage for generations. This is a terrible, horrible story. Well, this is one of those situations where the federal government does step in. They said that this was unconstitutional treatment, but this is after generations, which means decades. This means the federal government likely knew this was happening for decades and did absolutely nothing about it. And now they're saying, okay, this is constitutional. What are they going to do? They're likely going to put in some type of review mechanism, quote unquote. Maybe they'll send some money down there that the state controls. And then, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, they'll be right back in the same situation. This is why I have no trust in the federal government to do any more than it's already done. If they do anything at this point, for me, it's something that God did, not these people, because these people, I just don't think they have the capacity for it. I just don't. Personally, I just don't. I don't trust in these people. This black farmer, we've been seeing this guy everywhere. He sued the federal government about farming. He's saying that we should boycott Ford over undervaluing land to build an EV plant. And I don't know if this is the Mason, Tennessee issue. I'm going to try to open it up real quick. Yeah, so this is in Tennessee. His name is John W. Boyd Jr., president of the National Black Farmers Association. I wonder if the other gentleman, the fourth candidate in that mayoral race, I wonder if he used to be a part of this, because he used to be the president of a Black Farmers Association. So maybe he was the former president of this association. But he's saying we should boycott Ford. And they're calling this Blue Oval City, where this plant is going to be. So, for those who are in the market to buy a new car, he's suggesting that Black Americans just don't buy Ford products at all whatsoever. I don't know how many Fords we buy as a population. Would be nice to know that. But I wonder if we stop buying Ford products for a year or 2 years or a decade, if it would actually, make a difference. If it would actually put a dent in what it is they do. That would be very, very important information to know and understand. How much buying power we have in their operations. I'm just going through these. Tony Brown. So Tony Brown, who had the television show, I think it was called Tony Brown's Journal back in like the 80s. Man, this dude was so far ahead of his time. You talk about people who were telling us, I think people were talking about some people on DVDs, the elders on DVDs who were kind of telling us different things. Well, this black man, my God, he was so on the pulse. And, unfortunately, nothing has changed. This was in 1984. He was telling Black Americans that they would have to allow a Democrat president to lose a national election in order for them to finally realize that they have to do something for Black Americans. This is in 1984. And here we are, how many ever years later, almost 40 years later, and we keep saying the same thing over and over again. And this is what I'm saying. We really are in this physical time loop where we lose information and then we keep repeating the same talking points, the same cycle over and over and over again. And again, it's got to be the education and the programming. We're not passing this information down so that we understand this is where we were at when I was growing up, and this is where you're at now, and then this is where the grandchild is at. And this is, it's kind of like we got to once and for all figure this thing out so that we don't keep repeating the same cycle over and over and over and over and over and over again. Because that one actually hurts, because that was in 1984, and you would think if the people were listening that they could have made that stance then. They could have put a halt back then. And unfortunately, it didn't happen. So here we are, 40 years later.
I sent that video around on Twitter a couple months ago, or maybe a year ago, and it made his rounds. I forgot whose talk show he was on, but he was sitting on the stage in the suit, and yeah, he said that. And I was like, damn, who was this dude? I never heard about him, but yeah, Tony Brown. I think the thing is this, brother. Like, they didn't listen to that, but it's like, I think a lot of our people feel like, well, the Democratic candidate lost this time, so maybe they'll get the hint. But I don't think that it's really been an election where black people have went out the way to not vote for the Democrat or to at least vote against the Democrat. The closest thing we've probably seen to that is when Hillary ran against Trump. But, I mean, even then, the turnout was still high. And, you know, I mean, more black women and it was 10% of black men or 15% of black men voted for Trump and like 10% of black women voted for Trump or something like that. But yeah, it's just, we haven't shown that. That's an ultimatum that we have not as a black community, as a black bloc, exercised or issued yet. So, I mean, I've been saying that. I think that's what we should have been on. We should have been on that since Hillary was running. And definitely we should have been on that with Biden. And that's just not a message that our people want to hear, unfortunately.
But we really didn't come out for that Trump and Hillary race like we had been voting previously. And if you remember, the black folks faced a lot of backlash for that because what a lot of pundits on TV were saying was that it was Black America's fault that the Democrats had lost. And so every time I would turn on the news anyhow, that was the constant narrative. And even going into the next election, that's what, you know, people kept saying, well, you know, black folks didn't come out and vote. You know, we dropped the ball. More of us need to get out and vote. But at the same time, they still wasn't really saying anything that they was going to do for us specifically, you know, to gain those black voters back. But they started elevating certain black voices up to gin up the black votes again for the next election with Biden versus Trump. But a lot of our people, once again, you know, kind of stayed out, but, you know, more of us picked back up. So it's sort of like we kind of seen the writing on the wall with the Hillary and the Trump thing, but I think maybe them blaming us so much might have made some people feel some ways, and so they felt obligated, that obligation and guilt trip that we were given, because they ramped it up. You know, Trump sent a lot of wow. Trump had like a whole school of church people in his midst. Every time you turned around, you know, he had a lot of black pastors praying over him and in the office with him, you know, while he was signing or just talking, and they were just, you know, giddy. And they get a lot of our people that way too, you know, coming through the church. So I don't know. I don't think when Tony Brown, because I remember his show, I don't think we were ready then, but I think more than ever now we are. Not according to a lot of people on my Facebook page, which I rarely go to now, but when I try to have these discussions, there's still that Negro pushback, you know, oh, you know, you can't be talking about Democrats and my ancestors died and I'm going to go and vote. And I be trying to slay them arguments down, but you can't really argue with some people online because they try to beat you with their ignorance and drag you into the cave of hell with them. And so I refuse to go there with you unless I'm, you know, the first in line leading the way. But, you know, I think we're more ready now than we ever have. We just gotta, you know, 2024 is rapidly coming ahead. We need people to be, you know, pushing the things that we say online. We got to get it offline and start making it known to let other people who actually feel the same way that we do right here inside these spaces, but also feel that pressure like you have to vote because they're still stuck on a lesser of two evil scenario. And that's really what it boils down to a lot, is they feel like if they don't go out and vote, the big bad Republicans are going to come in, even though they technically know in the back of their mind both parties are not worth a damn and don't really serve us. But it makes them feel like they're doing, what they're supposed to be doing by going and voting. And if I vote for someone, well, I have to vote for someone, so I might as well give it to these Democrats who may do something for us. And even if they don't do something for us, maybe they're not going to harm us as much as the Republicans are. And that's really where a lot of people see it. They know that they're not going to do anything for us, but they feel more than ever like the Democrats aren't going to harm us as bad as the Republicans, which is a fallacy because the Democrats are the ones who's pushing these policies that is actually harming us more than, whatever it is the Republicans. Republicans want to do stuff. You want to take history and stuff out of the schools. We can combat that by teaching our own children. But the Democrats are putting these immigrants into our neighborhoods and pushing us out. They're allowing the corporations to come through and buy up all of the homes on our blocks. The Democrats are also, pushing this LBGT scenario, which, that's a whole slew of fuckery on its own. If your child is slated to be gay, let him be gay on his own accord, but we don't need it on all of the cartoon stations. We don't need you showing up at the schoolhouse for events. We don't need you doing all of the extra shit that you all have been doing that looks and feels like an agenda to us.
Let me get in here.
I don't think people really recognize those things as actual harms because they can't really see them, and they're really not being talked about on a national level like that because our people don't watch Fox News or shit like that, so they don't get those talking points.
Whew.
See, I used to be a big MSNBC head, right? That's all I used to watch. I used to watch MSNBC. I used to watch TV One when Roland Martin still had his show in the morning. This was. I understand people have their gripes with him, but at that time, I'm like, feel how you want about him. He is still a black news head that talks about black issues every morning. But whatever, he didn't get enough views. The show got taken off there.
That sucks.
But with MSNBC, yes, I saw the change. I saw the talking heads that they got put up, after Obama when Hillary was, doing her run. The Joy Ann Reeds, the other little chick. They got everybody that was actually about black stuff. They got rid of. Melissa Harris Perry had to go. She was too pro-black. She was too pro. I think she may be on the Pan-African train, but whatever. She was talking about issues that directly affected us, whether she was Pan-African or not. But those strong black voices that were on MSNBC, they got rid of them. And then, like you said, after Hillary didn't win, I do remember them blaming us for that. But we didn't take the blame as much as we should have. I was saying we need to take that and we need to say yes. And if y'all don't promise us something specific for us next election, she gonna lose again, or whoever run gonna lose again.
Mm-hmm.
But see, it was the boogeyman of Trump that caused Biden to win. Oh, Trump won the first time. Oh my God, the country's doing so horrible. Oh, everybody hates America. Blah blah blah. We gotta do anything to get Trump out of office. What was that? There was a hashtag anything but Trump. Anything but Trump, blue no matter who, all that bullshit. So, it's unfortunate, the talking heads that they put up there now. Again, they got all these immigrants, these non-FBA people in these positions of quote unquote authority and in these media talking heads, and they speak in direct opposition to the shit that we want. So just like James Clyburn, what somebody call him, they call him Jim Bojangles Clyburn. Just like when Joe Biden asked him, what did he need? When James Clyburn saved this man and brought his campaign back to life, Jim Clyburn was like, black people, nothing. So that's what we had. Same thing here. Well, what our old black? Oh, you don't got to do nothing specific for black folks. Just be a good old Democrat, and that's good enough for us. No, it ain't good enough for us. And there needs to be more of us with that message, and we have to make that shit known to them, those who are running for office, that know if you don't promise us something specific, You will not get our votes.
I'm fighting to stay in here.
Trump don't go to jail
stay alive.
and he can run again, don't be surprised if you see 20% to 25% of black men vote for Trump this election.
I'm about to talk about my peeps. Yeah, I believe Trump is going to get a big chunk of the black vote. Either that or people just ain't going to show up for Biden. It's either one or the other. But he did have he had an historic election, the most votes ever in the presidency, and he really did so-called beat Trump really bad the last time. And I do believe that they were manipulating the votes. They were fucking throwing votes out and all types of shit. There was a black gentleman. I gotta find that little video clip. Little older, little chubby. He was at a city council meeting, I believe, and he was talking about how he knew how they manipulated the vote, how they put votes in and how they take votes out, and how someone had called him to replace his voter bag. And I mean, he spent a good 3-4 minutes just telling all the whole shit in a city council meeting. And then he ended up passing away not too long after that. So I still have not had a chance to look into how he passed away, but the timing of it is a little suspicious because he was very politically active, very politically astute, and he just knew too much. Let me put it that way. But Gary Chambers, he actually reminds me of an older Gary Chambers. If you remember Gary Chambers, he's down there in Louisiana. He first caught fire from going to these city council meetings and expressing his views. Ran for office a couple times. The Democrat Party, disgusting as they are, ensured that he would not become the nominee, and they played all types of political fucking games with him. In a state where I do believe the black, like most of those other states, the black Democrats, or if they're not close to half, they're the majority of the party. But we don't run those parties down there, which is really sad. But he's got this minute-long video, minute and 30 seconds, about civics for the people. He's giving civic lessons. This is a very powerful video because he just kind of tells people, hey, it's great for everybody to run for office, but there's also these other areas that we could be applying for that don't require an election.
And this park will cost $1 million. And if the people on that board don't represent the demographics of that community, then that community is at a disadvantage. And if the city council member has to fight at a level that we could have avoided if we dealt with it at the board. The other thing is, each one of those boards contracts out with other entities or with businesses in our community. When Brett gets their money to build the zoo, that's contracts that they're going to spend $300 million and invest in companies to build that, right? Well, city council has nothing to do with that. That's $300 million that the Parks and Recreation Board decides who gets it. When you get a new library, your city council has nothing to do with that. Your library board determines who gets the new big shiny library, right? So when we got a new library in downtown Baton Rouge, but every library in North Baton Rouge looks the same, right? They're all outdated. They all have the same. None of them are two-story, okay, right? And so the new library in Goodwood, the main library. Now, should we have a phenomenal main library? Absolutely, every city should. But should we also have libraries in disadvantaged communities that give children the opportunity to see infrastructure that they would not normally see in a blighted community? Who helps cast that vision? A board and commission. That's not just city council members.
Yeah, so he basically is saying, and matter of fact, man, this is the reason why this is so powerful is not so much that he's telling you, yeah, you could get on these different boards, but he's really telling you how they move money around and how there's all these opportunities that are inherent in how they move this money around. That if you have an organization or if you're a contractor, you contract with the government and you have people on that board that you have a relationship with, then you could be in line to get some of that money for some of these projects. Now, what ends up happening is, because it's majority white people on these boards, they give the money to majority white contractors. The more of us, and this is why the black majority state strategy is so very, very, very important, is that the more of us get onto these boards, we can control the flow of the money ultimately. That's the other big point. Defense is one big point, of course, but also, how does the money flow throughout the community? How does the money flow throughout the county? How does the money flow throughout the state? Getting on these boards scattered all across the country, we might have one person on one board here, we might get a couple over there. We're likely going to be outnumbered. If there's a vote that ever comes up, we're likely going to be scrambling to build coalitions to get whatever we want through to get some of this money. And to get a library built, and he called it a blighted neighborhood. I mean, he's talking about the black community. You know, that sucks. But, you know, this is why you want to go in this direction, so that you are controlling the money as it flows through the state, so that you can build black businesses up to contract with the government, so that you can build and you can make it fair. So instead, he's basically saying they built one brand new 2-story library in the middle of downtown Baton Rouge, but you got all these other libraries that are dilapidated and they need help. They don't have any new technology. They're old, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He's essentially saying they could have spread that money around, but they won't, because that's not what they do. They make sure that the money flows to their side of the city. That's Jackson is a perfect example. All the money flows to the white side of town. None of it flows to the black side of town, or just enough to keep them in existence, but not enough so that they ever become a threat, essentially, politically or financially. So shout out to Gary Chambers for, you know, pivoting from running for elected office to now actually just trying to educate people on how the system actually works, and, you know, to inspire people to become entrepreneurs and contract with the government, and then also get on these boards so that they can be the people making decisions on where the money eventually ends up. So I did want to put that in before I head off to, you know, sleepy time, because I do got to get up and work and we don't have our normal all-nighter in here. So if you, Mr. National and Miss Trouble, want to keep the thing going, certainly do so. But I thank you so much for coming up and co-hosting and keeping the space going and hitting the topics. I know National posted a bunch of stuff up in the Jumbotron. If you want to go over those, I'll listen in. But I am going to be, you know, hitting sleepy time here pretty soon. So.
I'm with you, Black. I'm getting ready to tear out and get me some shut eye. I got to get up early in the morning myself.
Okay, that's what's up.
I'm driving, so whoever want to chop it up, I mean, if you want to shut it down. I'll open up my space if you want to shut this one down.
Yeah, no, that's totally up to you, because, you know, I'll bring another co-host up if you know, do it how you want to do it. If you think it's easier for you to just start it fresh,
then that's fine. Yeah, bring another co-host up. That's cool. We'll just keep chopping it up. Whoever in there got questions or have some things they want to say, no, we'll just have a round table discussion.
Okay, that's cool. Muffet, you up for co-hosting? You staying up? Muffet's not up here.
All right, much love, Black. I'm gonna tear out.
Okay, thank you so much, Miss Trouble. Have a good, blessed night and a blessed weekend.
Trouble. Good night, sis.
Good night, National Reparations. Shout out to the group. Good night, everybody. Thank y'all for riding with us this weekend. See y'all next Saturday, same place, same time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Okay, so let me move Miss Trouble down, and then I'll send it to Muffet, see if he wants to come up in here, and you know, you guys can bring people up.
Bring Bring my boy Admiral Black Wolf. He can be the co-host.
Okay, all right, let's do that then. Yeah.
Oh, he just dipped. Oh man, I was about to make it. Oh, he just left. I guess he just came in and say hi.
Okay. Let's see what we got. Well, he might see. You know what? I'm gonna be honest. I don't know if you have this issue in your spaces. Sometimes, if you've been paying attention, people have been bouncing in and out. They like to bounce people out of our space. Twitter's real glitchy like that when it comes to us.
Yeah, what it's been doing to me is like I'll come in a space and I'll hear the people talking and then they just stop talking. Like I see the little microphone is moving, but I can't hear them anymore. Then it's like I don't even think that they still see me in the room, but I'm in the room, half in the room, half out, like I'm in the void or something.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. That was happening to me a lot. I ended up logging. I didn't log out of the app, but I uninstalled the app without logging out, and then I shut the phone off and on a couple times, and then I downloaded the app again, and then signed in again. And it's been night and day compared to what it used to be, because some spaces I couldn't stay in there longer than a couple of minutes before it would gray out the whole room. But yeah, for people who are willing to take the risk, if you uninstall it without logging out and then shut the phone off and on, reinstall it, because it kept giving me an error or something about the cache. And then I found this out. I didn't get to talk about this. Holy shit. So Twitter uses these devices as storage. I looked at my videos I was kind of going through trying to delete some videos or whatever. On both devices, I believe I got like 5,000 Twitter videos from, all these little video clips that you see on your timeline or whatever. And I'm like, damn, that's actually kind of disturbing. I knew that they would put little pictures here and there and stuff like that, little files, but that many videos is actually using up a lot of my space on my phone. And then it's just like,
yeah, that's a lot of memory. Yeah. Oh, I need to check. I got an app that does that, but I haven't turned it on in a little while. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna check my app space.
Yeah, checking your videos, because not only is it like you said, storage space, but at the same time thinking, well, there's a lot of questionable shit on Twitter. You know what I'm saying, video wise. And I'm just thinking, man, what if there's some shit that's that they're like putting on my phone? Because I mean, if you know where I'm going with it, you kind of know where I'm going with it. Because so I'm gonna try to take some time to go through and video and just delete shit that is like, what, because I'm just like, why the fuck are this many videos on my phone? I didn't save a single one of them. You know what I'm saying? They're just downloading them to my phone. Yeah, but I got to figure out how to turn that feature off, I guess, in the app or something. But yeah, but that's it, man.
Well, let's see. I'm asking, did anybody in here want to talk?
Anybody want to come up? Anybody want to talk?
If y'all want to say something, ask me something. Talk to me about whatever you heard tonight.
Peace to the YouTube. I'm about to go to sleep. See you next weekend. We did. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm signing out on YouTube as well. So we do the first 2 hours on social, soxcial.com. And I got to get all those videos up on the social, the Great King Black State video community. And then we switch over to YouTube for the rest of the show. And then, I'm about to shut down the YouTube. Looks like the Twitter is going to shut down as well. But thank you so much for coming out. Again, shout out to National, shout out to Muffet, shout out to everybody in space, Miss Tata and Miss Goddess. And we will see you next weekend, it looks like. Okay, good night, Mr. National.
All right, good night, bro. Love y'all. Appreciate the space.
Mm-hmm. Right, peace. Okay, good night, everybody. Shutting this one off. Boom. Yeah.